Tell me, why does fuck have such a bad reputation? What a versatile word with a great connotation. Can be used as a noun, verb, or exclamation, utilized in any and all situations, like I don't give a fuck, fuck off, or damn it, fuck me. Just give fuck a chance, and soon you'll see it'll highlight your whole vocabulary. Add a suffix and it forms a magical link. Fuck's an adjective now to describe many things, like my fucking job sucks and this fucking car's junk. When this fucking shift's over, I'm going to get drunk. Any sentence is better with an adverb in there, like shut the fuck up, or I don't fucking care. Just think all those times that fuck's had you covered. Like telling your boss off, seducing your lover, when no other word can describe your frustration. It sits in your arsenal waiting real patient. It likes to jump out and surprise conversations. But I didn't write this because I'm so fucking witty. I just care for words, and I think it's real shitty the way the poor fuck always gets reprimanded. You must not have read the first fucking amendment. It's all in how we use it, so I'm here to defend it. So fuck you if you hear this and now you're offended because you think I'm a sinner who's going to hell. If you don't like the F word, then go fuck yourself.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to episode 84 of Ruse Radio. We are back at it again with a very special guest. Could you please introduce yourself?
How you guys doing? My name is Eugene. I've lived in Flint for 30 years, and I'm a poet.
You are a poet, man. So, okay, when I first met you, I was at Tenacity Brewing, and I was at an open mic, and you performed. I can't remember if you went on before or after me. I believe it was right before me.
After.
It was after?
It was after.
All right, so there we go. And I just remember being really impressed with what you had to offer, dude.
Ditto.
I mean, like, just the amount of... It was clear that you had put thought into your poetry. It was clear that you weren't writing it for the sake of, you know, oh, I want to be a poet, so I'm filling in the blanks. It's like you were writing it because you were passionate and you wanted to share something. And when I talked to you, I got the same exact vibe off of you. It's just you had so much to share, and for me, art is it's an avenue for me to put my thoughts into. So whenever I see other people that have that same affliction, I really appreciate it. I need people like me out here to remind me that I'm not crazy. You know what I'm saying?
You're not crazy, man. I mean, you're crazy. We're crazy. We're artists.
Artists especially, I've noticed. Every artist has got all kinds of crazy backing them up. It's just what makes them an artist.
Crazy is as crazy does.
Yes, it is. So before the podcast, we were having a fantastic conversation. So I think we should just dive back into kind of what we were talking about with... I mean, the title of this podcast is going to be Revolutionizing Poetry. So we might as well just lay it out like this. I mean, you had told me when you wanted to come on the show that you wanted to revolutionize poetry. You want to change it in the modern world. So I guess just talk about that and how you think we could achieve that.
I feel like in this day and age, you know, when you can pull up porn on your phone in 3 seconds, you know, attention spans have dwindled. And even though, you know, no one will ever say it better than Robert Frost, you know, whose woods these are, I think I know, you know, the road less traveled by. It's just, you can't, I feel like you can't write like that anymore. Like, you can, but it's forgettable. It's been done. No one this day and age can relate to it. And I want to be relatable. I want to be able to relate to everyone.
Yeah,
you know?
that's an interesting thought process there, because if I go back and I read something like, for example, Edgar Allan Poe, it's great, but it's dense. Like, in the way that we speak now, to read it actually requires mind power, because I have to think about it in a different way than the way we use words now.
Absolutely.
It's written differently. Whereas when I approach my poetry, I'm thinking the same way, in the sense that I'm more inspired by Dr. Seuss than Edgar Allan Poe. Like, I'm connecting words in this short and sweet way to make it work for everybody in the way that we think in this modern age. I think I do that. I think I really do. I've never been able to to explain it, but I think that's exactly what's happening. It's like I'm utilizing the tool set that I have. Like this is the way we talk now. So, and especially like, so we were saying beforehand about the stuff that we've written, and I don't know if you have any poetries off the top or any poems.
Oh,
off the top
absolutely.
Of your head.
I didn't. You know what? I didn't even bring a notebook. I forgot to bring a notebook. A lot of my friends are impressed that I memorized my poems, but it's like, you know, once you've worked on a piece for so long, I absolutely have them memorized. And yeah, that's funny that you said Dr. Seuss. I mean, I do try to simplify pieces, but it's like, who's to say that you can't swear in a poem?
Yeah.
You know, so one of the first very interesting pieces I wrote, one of the first very complex piece I wrote is called Tribute to Fuck.
Yeah. Well, wait, before you recite this, because I know we're getting to it.
Oh,
I want to hear, because I heard that's one of the first ones I heard from you, and I loved that one, so I'm excited. But this is I think this demonstrates what I'm talking about with the Dr. Seuss thing. So it's like, this is a poem I wrote. It's kind of meta. It's a poem about poetry. This is the idea, and I remember I wrote this in. This is a whole story that we'll get into, all right? But I was in poetry class in high school, so I wrote this story in poetry class. It was actually an assignment, but it was like a perfect fit for me. Here we go.
Yeah.
I stand by this one to this day.
I can't wait.
For me, it's more than sayings and connotations, what you can't say in everyday conversations. What you can't see, well, someone else might. Poetry's honest, not always right. Poetry's personal, a part of ourselves, a versatile art, apart from ourselves, an art with a spell, casted when written. It's not what I write, it's what's buried within it. Poetry's honest, not always right. What you can't see, someone else might. See, it's all perception, how you live life, the way that you see it, you may how you might. So while you can't write, our time is fleeting and poetry's permanent. Art'll keep beating, beyond the base, encased in my breast. Poetry's permanent, honest, my best.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. See, I love that. Like, your style's different than mine. I kind of approach like the old-fashioned stanzas.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep that. And that's what I think I try to be relatable but I try to use the old-fashioned stanzas because I feel like
when you say that, explain that to people who might not know how that, because I imagine a lot of people nowadays don't know what those are.
For example, one of my favorite poems is Avier Kipling. By Avier Kipling, it's called If. Mm-hmm. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can keep the faith when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. You know, it's so
the
beautiful.
Rhythm of it. It's the rhythm.
And it's still relatable, but I want to kind of say that, but modernize it. So yes, I love that rhythm. I love the ABAB stanzas, the ABC stanzas, or, you know, the AABB, you know, whatever. I just kind of like, when I think about a topic, it just kind of comes to me like how it should sound. And when it's done, like, I kind of know.
Yeah.
When it's done, you know, sometimes I question myself, like, is this piece done? Like, does it need revision? But I think all artists do that. But that's what I mean by stanzas, the old-fashioned stanzas. You know, or you know, Robert Frost. You know, two roads lay in the woods, and I chose the one less traveled by.
Well, people don't even realize the amount of thought that went into those stanzas and how you were trying to fit a format. I mean, sure, we know haikus and some things like that nowadays, but that's really the extent of it. We don't realize that was the format for poetry for a long time.
But I love hearing artists that have other approaches, you know, they have their, you know, like to do the free verse, because it's almost like I can't do that. Like I give myself this, like almost goal, this rule when I write, like it has to rhyme and it has to be in the stanza and it has to like has to be like all realistic or something. Like depending on which piece. Like there's one piece where I talk about like all these very dangerous, difficult things in comparison, and I gave myself a rule that all these things have to be actual acts that people have performed.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like,
well, and some things, like sometimes, because, so two things then that come to mind there. For one, I think that when it comes to revolutionizing poetry, you do want to break the rules. You do want to establish, but the only way you can break the rules is knowing what the rules are. There's a great quote, I think it's like Pablo Picasso maybe, and it's just something like, a great artist learns all the rules and then breaks them. It's something like that. And that's just the way that you do it.
Definitely.
You figure out how it works, and then you don't do it that way. And one thing I've realized as I'm writing is I will have the melody and the method in my mind, and I'll tell myself, no, do something else. I'll actually go against my own intuition on purpose, because I know that's going to break the rule that I've established in my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to break your own rules.
I know what you mean. Like, I always think like, this word, like, this has been done to that. Like, everybody uses this word. Everybody says, oh, darkness, or everybody says, like, everyone, compares, like, rainstorms to being sad or whatever. I try to do it a different way. Like, one thing I was trying to think about is how to use, like, dark and black as a positive.
Oh, that's cool.
In a positive connotation instead of negative, because, it's been for centuries, the darkness and blackness and abyss.
Dark the spark that lights the way. I see the abyss and fight astray.
Right, that's pretty good. But my point is, like, darkness is relative. It's relative to us. Like, we rest in the dark.
Well, I think that's like a yin and yang thing is how I always look at it. Is
Absolutely.
Without the dark, there is no light. And so, sure, like we may not want to be in the dark, but it's like you just said, we rest in the dark. We need it because we don't recognize what that light is. We can't live in the light unless we rest in the dark. We have to do that. And people lose sight of the bigger picture, I suppose. And I guess that's what makes us poets, my friend, is that we can't lose sight. It's what drives us crazy, is we're always thinking about the bigger picture. I have to imagine you got the same struggles as me when it comes to this. It's why I write, man. I write because I feel like there's so much to everything. And life truly is that duality of it all.
Every piece is like a mental struggle. And it's fine. Like, you did... is it okay if I do like my version, my poem about, the struggling artist and writing poetry?
Do anything you want, man. I still want to hear a tribute to Fuck as well. We'll get to that.
Absolutely. I'll do as many pieces as you can. But the way I was thinking is like, it's like, when you're constructing, a piece, when you're writing a poem, it's like suffering, so the way, hopefully I can remember this whole thing. My soul is splattered black on white, anxious what critics think. Anyone have anything to add? Pull out your quill and ink. From dusk till dawn, covered in sweat, from dusk till dawn, been sparring with this pen. It's rubbish, rip this parchment up and start from scratch again. Took all the anguish I've endured to synthesize this verse. Still honored I'm the lucky one who's been bestowed this curse. Sorry about that. That one I didn't really have memorized real good.
No, that's great, man. You did great. If you didn't say all that, they would have never even noticed. They would have barely noticed. They would have, because all you did is stutter like once. You're good. Trust me, you notice your fuck ups way more than we do. I've learned that hardcore along the way. I've learned that because I'll fuck up and then people will be like, "Yo, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen." And I'm like, "Whoa, I feel like that was the worst I've ever done in like 3 months."
So I feel like I do try to be eloquent. I do try to
Yeah.
use the beauty of the English language.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
and I want to say about the poem too, that struggle, that internal battle is what makes the artist. I think so. Like I think that's what I always think when I think about Robin Williams. Is people always say I can't believe he was so depressed. It's like, how do you not see that is the picture? It's painting it for you.
to be that funny.
To want to give that light to others, you have to have that depth within you. It's the only way. It's the only way. Nobody cares that much unless they feel that much.
And the more, I always think, the more talented someone is, the more pain and anguish they feel inside. Like, I always feel bad when I see someone really talented. Like, I know that comes from that inner scars and the inner struggle, and we each have our own, battles that we fought. Like, mine, for instance, was learning English. Because I was 10 years old when I immigrated to the United States from former Soviet Union. And I spoke fluent Russian. I spoke very little English, and I had to start fourth grade in America and just learn English from scratch. But I obviously... it turned out well for me. I don't regret any of it, but it was definitely, it was a struggle. I mean, for a 10-year-old, it was very scary.
One has to imagine that would contribute to the way you write poetry today as well. Just the way that you are introduced with the English language and
just every part of it. I try to put every part that Russian, that pride, and that, but at the same time, that growing up in Flint, that whole just, I don't know, accent, that whole, Midwest, like, dialect,
Well, I mean, it all ends up becoming an embodiment of the human spirit because only you could live all of that and then come out the way you are.
I think only some of these pieces only I could write because only I experienced that from all those different angles.
Exactly.
Like you move to the, kind of socially challenged neighborhood.
Yeah.
At a very young age from a different country.
Not only that, you're from the jump, you don't speak their language. So it's not just the fact that you're in a place you don't know. You literally you feel like an alien. You feel like you're out of your own skin.
But I've had a beautiful experience. Like,
how long did it take you to really adapt, would you say?
I would say after about a year, my dad started noticing. He's like, you just were speaking. He's like, I couldn't believe how, much you've learned, because the younger you are, the easier it is. Mm-hmm. My sister was only 4 years old, so obviously for her she didn't even notice how she started, speaking English. But for me, I remember, still translating words in my head, still coming home from school with headaches from not, listening to a language I wasn't used to every day, to, listening to everyone's, like, different, like, dialect and, people's eloquence to the slang, to the, the really kind of mumbled, accents, and they...
I'll be honest. I feel like I'm fluent in English, and there's still certain sects of it, like that I can't even begin with. I'll hear people talk. I'll be like, "What they just say?"
It's funny. Like, sometimes I feel so vain. I'm like, man, I speak English better than everybody. Obviously, not. And yeah, I know so many different angles of it. And there's still words I run into every day that I, learn.
We're all students.
And people like us, we hear a word we don't know. We're like, wait a minute, you got to look it up. You got to analyze it, and sometimes I use a word and I have to look it up, like, look up the synonyms, like figure out does that work? Is that really work, you know, like
Yeah.
if like the word nerds, are they gonna like eat me alive, you know, because of this?
Well, I was talking right before the podcast about the way the English words are formed and how there's just a kind of pattern. If you know how to spot certain words and like break words down, then you'll see a lot of it really does kind of just make itself make sense, the origins of the word. And so when I'm writing, I'll find myself, words will pop into my brain and I'll Google them and I'll be like, that is the word. I'll learn words through writing raps. I'm not even I'm not making this up to make myself sound. It literally happens to me. I'll say, yeah, that fits and that rhymes, and then I'll Google it and it's, whoa, that fits perfect. I don't even know that word before 5 minutes ago. So my brain just gets an extra wrinkle sometimes when I'm writing. It's interesting the way that words it's almost like the words are just there. I like to think of it that way. Like, if once you're fluent enough in something, it kind of just happenstance, and then all of a sudden the words kind of just pop in. It's almost like that. I think that once you've got a grip enough on the format, it does happen like that. Things will just pop right in your brain because you just have this giant library of not only words, but how the words come together. Like, and that's why I was saying to you before the podcast too, because we were talking about your Russian origins, and I was saying, like, that really, I'm always jealous of people who start off 2 languages early, because those connections that form and the way that you think about words and the way that you think about ideas as an abstract thing beyond words, right? Because you have to convert your ideas into words.
Absolutely.
And now not only are you doing that in Russian, you're doing that in English. So you understand how to do it in 2 different mediums. And that's why art's so great, because it's actually a different language if you think about it. You're converting your voice into a different medium, and you get more and more fluent at it the more and more you speak it. And that goes for painting, that goes for writing, goes for editing, it goes for everything.
Absolutely.
And so it's all just, I'm jealous of those kids that get that.
Well, you know, English kind of became my first language. Russian, I'm not so good at writing poetry in Russian. It's kind of more difficult for me, but I challenged myself to do it because I told myself, like, well, you know, like, that's my, you know, like, native language.
Yeah.
So I have to, like, try to write a poem. And maybe it's not as good as when I write in English, but I had to do it, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously. But yeah, you're right. Like, words become like tools.
Yes.
You know, they're tools to express yourself. And I try to use them in a way that, you know, and all words are relevant. You know, slang is relevant. You know, curses are relevant. That's what people don't. I think people don't consider that. I think people, when they think of word, you know, they want to be proper. They're scared of being judged, maybe. But I say to hell with that, man.
Well, I think that's. I think that one thing that's beautiful about words is the way that they can be used in different, like, comedy, for example. It's the way that you place the words in the right spots that makes people laugh. Like, it's just the fact that you're able to utilize your spoken word powers in such a way that you can make a room light up with laughter. That's funny
magic. That's funny that you mentioned comedy, because the last open mic I actually did some stand up.
Oh, did you?
I don't know if you were there to see it, but I worked a lot on it, and I did get some laughs. I couldn't believe. Couldn't believe I was funny, dude. I can't believe I'm funny.
Ruse has been waiting to do stand up. I should just go out there and do it like you. That's all I gotta do. Because I'll get laughs and I'll say the same thing you just said. I'll be like, dude, people actually thought I was funny. I'll be excited.
I've noticed, like, and all my friends told me, like when I don't think about it, when I don't really try, you know, because like I sat down, I'm like, how do you write a stand-up routine? Like, how do you even go about it? Is it like a movie script? Is it like, what's even the format of it?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm looking it up, and there's like no like all you got is like Jerry Seinfeld's like 10 pieces of advice, you know, like.
So
And-
I think the only way you can learn is by watching stand up and actually being a student. One thing I need to do more of is going to actual live stand up and open mics and seeing how those operate.
Like those are, and I think like those guys are amazing to me because I'm not really good on the spot, you know.
No, and they're 100%
Like,
on
like
the
I
spot.
can-
They're just rolling. They don't have a list of notes they can go look at. Or they don't got
No
that.
way. Like like they're just like thinking of jokes on the spot and.
Well, even if it's written, it's a joke you have memorized. You can't mess up
Absolutely.
any of the delivery. You have to get it all right in order for it to land.
You know, like I desperately want to do another one because
Yeah.
I mean it was like a high like I've never felt to get like a dozen people in a room to just all laugh at the same time. I can just imagine what it's like to get 100 people or like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
Like Chris Rock, you mentioned Robin Williams,
Yeah.
brilliant man. Any one of those guys, you know, those people are epic. The vulnerability that they, you know, expose themselves to, and you know, to be able to make fun of yourself. That's very important.
To be willing to be the butt of the joke and to be willing to play into that. See, that's the thing I was gonna say is that I feel like what those guys do is that it's the same thing we do. It's the vulnerability. It's playing into it's allowing yourself to be it. Like when we write poetry, that's what we're doing, and it kind of goes into what I was saying about how everything is a language. Comedy's a language, and going on stage is a language. And once you figure that out and the rhythm of that, and once you get in the first 100 hours or so, I should say, I wouldn't say 10, I'd probably say 100, you'd probably develop a real rhythm. Because I imagine it's different than what we're doing here. It's if I converted my format. So rather than talking to you how I'm talking to you now, I go out on stage and I say, hey guys, how you doing tonight? My name's Ruse. Ruse is my rap name. Made that up when I was wrestling on a mattress when I was younger. Yeah. Tonight we're not talking about that. Tonight we're talking about Flint, Michigan. All right, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. Now, is anybody here familiar with Flint, Michigan?
That's a funny place.
Nothing.
Funny place.
Uh-huh. That's all right. That's all right. I mean, if you heard about the water, then that's probably what you know. It's either water or murder. It's usually those two things. I want to talk to you guys about a couple Flint things that I've seen. All right. So, one time I was driving to meet a photographer. All right, and this is just how you know you're in Flint. If you see something like this, it's how you know where you're at. I'm about to pull in, and I see somebody on a bike, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And I'm about to turn, and then I see somebody else chasing that person on a bike, and I realize that's a stolen bike.
He stole the bike. Yeah, welcome to Flint, Michigan.
Welcome to Flint, Michigan.
That's what if you hear a siren, and there's another siren following that siren, you're in Flint.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so put on your bulletproof vest and brush up on your ebonics, brush up on your slang, because you don't want to sound too pompous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, roll up this Club Sunoco, have yourself a visit.
Actually, there's some really brilliant, some of the most brilliant artists I've met come from this struggling, really.
Most people, it goes back to the whole duality thing and the fact that artists have that struggle within them. I think that there's a reason for that.
So is that struggle creates art? What do you think?
I think that it's not the struggle that creates the art, but it's the internal struggle that results from that. It's what happens within your mind after you've been through so much conflict. And for some people, that's not even the outward world. It could just be internal. You could have a bunch of depression and anxiety, and that's what contributes. You don't have to have a terrible childhood. It doesn't have to be something like this. But I think that it comes in all shapes and forms. And I think it'd be very rare for you to find an artist that actually doesn't have a wealth of internal conflict.
Sure, I absolutely agree. Like because we need an outlet, right?
Yeah.
So we find an outlet, whether it's drawing or music or poetry or rap. I think rap, by the way, is the ultimate form of poetry. I can't really rap. I try to freestyle. I've actually had some friends that were really badass rappers like producers. My buddy Jeremy O'Neal, Big Worm. He's not really doing much now, but we grew up, went to school together. He's a very talented individual. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm plugging you if you see this, man. Maybe it'll inspire you to do another album that you probably won't.
Hey Jerry, come out to Chicago
but who
sometime.
cares, man?
Yeah, I think you should make 10 albums, Jerry.
We're not. He made like 10 of them, and I think he's one of the most, like, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
He created kind of a new style. It's not acid rap. It's not hip. It's not gangster rap. It's more like realism, like his
Speaking
own.
on revolutionizing poetry, I look at rap the same way. I think it needs people to come out with their own unique voices and think about it differently. Like, look at rap differently than somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. I think some artists did. Some of these. I think definitely there are artists that have revolutionized rap.
Kendrick, I shout him out a million times in this room just because he's probably my favorite rapper. He's my favorite artist. He's got a way of utilizing words that I just can't get over. I'm like, this guy gets it. He knows the language.
For sure. Kendrick Lamar's a hell of an artist. Wonderful artist. Right away, names like Futuristic, NF. To the risk of sounding cliche, Eminem.
Of course.
He's the
You're familiar with
Godfather.
Chance the Rapper?
Yeah, absolutely,
Brilliant.
Chance.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a couple other rappers I would regard as poets. Tech Nine, for sure.
Tech Nine is okay. Yeah,
Macklemore, have you heard any of his like real? Because his pop hits didn't represent him properly. Macklemore's got some fascinating stuff.
I think any rap is within itself a form of poetry.
Yes.
Straight up a form of poetry.
Even rap that isn't trying to be thought-provoking and it's just talking about, I popped out my glizzy and this and that.
If people can say, people who do free verse, basically just like telling a story. If you think of that as poetry, then why isn't rap poetry? Why isn't this, me talking right now, poetry? It just depends on your style and how the standards you set for yourself. You could be like Bluebird. That's a poem. That's a 2-word poem. But what statement are you trying to make?
When I got into photography, it was the same exact thesis. It was this thought process of, I see poetry every single day. I see it in front of me. I see it. It's so crazy because I've never been able to express this. But you just helped me come to that. That's what it was. It was, I would walk and I would see things and other people can't see it unless I capture it in a picture and show you. Because it's the shapes that I see. It's the image. It's the art that's right there, painted in front of me.
Or it's what everyone sees and they don't know how to express it.
Yes.
And you can make it relatable. Speaking of seeing things, you were talking about Flint things just a second ago.
In my stand-up bit?
Well, in your stand-up bit? Well, I was thinking of when I was thinking of a stand-up bit. So, I kind of got like writer's block. And so as I'm standing in my roommate's living room, looking out this big window, I'm trying to think of jokes. It's like life hands you lemons. I see this old man. You talk about Flint things. I see this old man. You cannot make this shit up, guys. He's pushing himself with one foot backwards in a wheelchair. The kicker is to go meet his drug dealer. I know because everybody. Don't ask me how I know. Trust. But the kicker is
Flint thing
he's got a white flag he's got a white pole with a little orange flag on top, because when you're pushing yourself with one foot backwards in a wheelchair to go meet your drug dealer, safety first, guys. Always definitely safety first.
Do you have knee pads on too?
No, but he's like kind of like he can actually walk and push the wheelchair on the way back. But I mean, like there's, you're standing there. I'm like, man, I wish I had a joke. And I see this old man. He's just, right. And I see him doing this every day. So it's like, it's like life is funny, man. You just go and talk about life. It's just, I think that, comedians, just like poets, are not afraid to make themselves vulnerable. And the less afraid you are to make yourself vulnerable, like I hear everybody say, oh, I write poetry. Very seldom do people read me a piece like you just did. And that was awesome, by the way, man. That was, I love it because I feel like, I feel like people like, they're like, oh, you ho hat, and I'm just reading poetry, and they're up there like playing guitar, and I'm like, oh, you guys are awesome, man. I can't play an instrument to save my life. These guys are talented as shit, these people that come to open mics.
But
and
you gotta
just
remember,
are,
man, like it's. I always have to remind myself because I have that same thing. But you have to remember, there's a reason I'm me. There's a reason I can do what I do. There's a reason people like my poetry because I'm able to do that to other people. When people see what you write, they go, man, I could never do that. In the same way that you look at that guy with that guitar, like it's like. People, if you find your superpower, if you find your way to express, and you're able to utilize that, do that 100%.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. And that's why I keep doing, because those same very talented people, they tell me this, they tell me I'm talented, and I'm like, oh, holy crap! I'm like, well,
yeah.
If these guys are, I mean, it's not that I. Care. I probably would anyway, just for myself, but I wouldn't actually think like. Am I, like, is this good?
Well, you know
like,
what gets to me? When people, because I have a confidence. It's the only way my stuff would work. I'm approaching it with this mindset of, I know what I am. But when people tell me what I am, when they're confirming what I already had set in place, when they're like, yo, you're dope as hell. You got that flow. You got that. Like, when somebody shows up and they say all that, like, every time it's like, yes, this is working. They see me. The universe is recognizing me for what I am. It just feels good. So that's what it really is to me. It's like it's gratifying in a way that you couldn't get in a vacuum. If I just wrote my stuff and I know it's good, that's not the same as if I have 10 people telling me, "Yo, that rap you wrote, that inspired me to write." When I hear something like that, I want to go back and write something right now.
That's probably one of the most like best things an artist could hear is like, you inspired me, like you're really awesome. Like you reminded me of something. Like you reminded me to not take life for granted, or not, because it's a million times artists, poets and writers have portrayed those same kind of lessons in their stories, but I think that we always, you always have to keep reminding people, generation after generation, like that's why I want to. That's why I want to revolutionize poetry. That's why, because I want to make it relatable to this generation.
Yeah.
I want the people that maybe don't really even read that much. I want the people that don't know Shakespeare. Like I want the people that can't switch up accents from eloquence to just common, kind of, slang and just common everyday, language, to be able to relate to my pieces, and to be able to like say like, oh yeah, well, I never thought I liked poetry, but there's some definitely poetry that everyone likes.
Well, it's one thing that I always love to hear is like, I don't like rap, but I love what you write. Like something like that, where, you know, there was a podcast I hosted where I was just talking about wanting to move to Chicago. It was one of those ones that I kind of got in my head about because I'm like, it's just me talking for 30 minutes. And there was one comment that said, I'm thinking about moving from a small town too. I agree with everything you said here. And then they commented, you're also an excellent communicator. And I think that it's a superpower in life to be able to communicate well. To be able to, it's actually the best superpower. It's the one power we can all attain if we truly work towards it, is being an excellent communicator of our thoughts. And I think that when you do that really well in a medium like poetry, people identify with it on a universal level in the way you're describing. It's like you're able to demonstrate to them that you can connect all these dots, and everything is truly everything if you expand your scope out large enough, and you're able to pull in things from all these places in order to create a brand new piece. And that's art. That's always art. And so showing people that and demonstrating that every piece of work at a time, it's a beautiful thing.
Well, that's why I love hearing other people's poems, because you can only portray what you know.
Yes.
You can only speak from your point of view. And I love hearing all these different points of views. You know, people from different walks of life, people that had different experiences, different mental scars, different struggles, and different things they've overcame. Everyone has their own perspective, and it comes through. Like when I read the greats, when I read the epics, going back, Robert Frost, Edgar Allan Poe, people we've already mentioned, I always think, like, what were they feeling?
It just popped in my brain,
What were they
man?
thinking when they wrote? Perspective
is directive. It is.
Perspective is directive.
Without it, there's no direction. And
Absolutely.
That's what I think too when I read those poems. I think, where were they when they wrote this? Like, what state were they in to get here? It's like when it's like when you're at a museum and you look at a painting. Like, where did they paint this? Why did they paint this? What is the story of this painting?
Yeah, like, who were they inspired by? Like, Alexander Pushkin.
Yeah.
For instance, like, I always think, like, for some reason, always look at my piece and, like, some of the epics, like, his, like, of course, he wrote in Russian, but that just flow, that epic, profound flow, that pride, that, the mannerism, it's like how he felt, like, all that, but at the same time, even for his time, he used very simple language because he wanted to relate to the common man. He didn't want to just relate to, like, people that were educated. He wanted to relate to the common man, and I definitely do too. But I think I try to break all the rules. I'm trying to break all the rules because I'm trying to relate to everyone. I want everyone to understand and to think, like, damn, like, what was he feeling? How really feel like what I was feeling when I wrote the piece.
So for me, the entire reason I do anything is that inspiration we were talking about. Basically what you just said, it all ties into it. It's the thought process. I want to inspire a thought. I want to make you feel something. I don't even care if it's a negative feeling. That's what Andy Kaufman demonstrated so well, is that you can just go on a stage and piss people off, and that's a form of art. It goes beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes beyond how we want to frame it. Art is this abstract thing that we don't truly understand. And every single time we make a piece of art, we're just contributing to that. Well,
how many artists copied off of Andy Kaufman?
Yeah.
For instance, goodness, I can't think of his name. The Canadian man that married Drew Barrymore.
I'm not sure.
Later, he was a
Is it
comedian.
You're not Bo Rad. It's not Bo Rad, is it?
No.
I don't know who married Drew Barrymore. I'm not sure.
I know he's Drew Barrymore's ex-husband.
Yeah, but he's got a similar comedic style to Andy Kaufman.
Yes, he's sort of like in your face annoying.
It's not the guy who shows up to the businesses and does those the show. I'm not remembering his name right now. It starts with an N, I think. It's not this guy, right? For You, Nathan For
Tom
You.
Green.
Tom Green. Oh,
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
I know Tom Green. Yes.
So yeah, everyone's definitely has an inspiration.
Yeah.
From whether it's like someone popular or someone that not a lot of people know about. Maybe just people in that community know about it, and that artists, kind of people who read and research these topics. But I feel like what I write is you don't have to know. You don't have to know who Edgar Allan Poe is. You don't have to know who Alexander Pushkin or Shakespeare or any of these people are. You know who Tupac Shakur is. You don't have to even know that though. But Tupac actually was a poet, and one of the most beautiful pieces he wrote is called Rose in the Concrete, which is part of the reason why when I found out Tupac actually wrote poetry, along with the way he rapped, that kind of inspired me. Like, well, maybe poetry isn't like for nerds, like maybe you can be cool and write poetry, So I think that's what I've been trying to do since I was like 12, and I think I'm just maybe getting the hang.
Yeah. Because I think that's a big thing. Is a lot of people just don't know. They don't have somebody who shows them the duality of that. Like, hey, this guy also, not only does he do this thing that I do that I think is dorky, but he also is somebody that everybody thinks is cool. He's an actor. Like when you see an actor talking about Dungeons and Dragons, all of a sudden, all the nerds are cool. But I was gonna say, yeah, you never really think like two in the what is it? What's the poem? What's the Sorry I Did Not Travel Both? How does that start?
The road less traveled.
Yeah, how does that poem start?
Oh goodness, and it's one of my favorite poems, and I do remember.
What's the part everybody knows? I can't even remember. For two roads diverged in a yellow wood.
Two roads diverged in a thank you.
Yeah.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both.
Okay.
And being one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. And I always think of like that beautiful line. Like I get exactly what Frost is trying to say. Like I want to get that last line almost tattooed on me because that's like what I live like. I feel like I've always been kind of the weird, peculiar guy ever since I was a kid. And I've embraced it since. I used to be embarrassed of it. I used to hate it. I got picked on and everyone was always like, you're strange, you're strange, you're strange. That's fine. We're all strange in our own way, but that's what makes me a good poet.
And the thing is, we all have to recognize that no matter how strange we are what that is. There's no escaping that, and it's only becoming better at that we can truly grow. Like if you don't like that strangeness, identify that, and then find your best way to work with that. Even like you feel it, you feel it, but you're not gonna not be you. It's never gonna happen. You're never gonna not be you.
Yes, and you're absolutely right. Why? But I've always felt like what Frost was saying in that poem. Like he must have felt that way. Too. Like he's like I could have chose this path where everyone else this common path. Yeah. This day and age maybe known as the 9-to-5 or the career. Or just your everyday. White picket fence, get a college education, get married, whatever your path in life is. Maybe that's not always that's not the only common path. But, he could have chose that path, but he said he took the other road. And it had made all the difference in his life. And that's how I always feel like, because I always took that other road. I always kind of like, well, I don't know why, but I try to follow the kids, but I'm like, nah, I can't. This isn't me. I'm not gonna, dress the way they dress. I tried it and it just didn't work for me. So I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna do my own thing. I went down my own path, and I think it led me to where I am now. I think if I wasn't a relevant artist, I don't think you'd be sitting here talking to me right now. So that's
and if you weren't keeping up with it, and if you didn't still have that fire in you, for me, it's funny. I did it intuitively. Like I never even questioned it. It was just like I don't know. It's like.
Have you always liked poetry ever since you were a kid?
Yeah, yeah, and to me
too.
That it made sense that I would put myself out in that way. Like I was never even. I figured out pretty early on that if I were to be in a room, I would feel awkward if I wasn't in control of that situation. I suppose. Like that's just something that I figured out. Like it doesn't feel. I feel weird, and I don't like being in group situations. I figured that out. Like, I don't like being at a party, and there's no aim to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like, because there's nothing I can work with there. I don't like, it's just boring me. There's nothing stimulating happening.
don't
We're
like
all just
to
standing in a
mingle, huh?
fucking
Yeah.
circle, dude. We're not doing anything. Drives me nuts.
What do you want? What do you want to do? Play pin the tail on a donkey or something?
Right? I can't do it. But what I want to do. No, yeah, well, that's what I feel like they want to do. I'm like, is that what we're doing here? We're just playing pin and tail on the donkey? Can we get something done here? So what I want to do is I want to be that guy that goes on the stage, that takes the moment and seizes it and has a poem that fucking blows your mind. And, this guy's, he's coming to it with a purpose.
Yeah,
I figured that out. Like, that's what I don't even like and also, it allows me to be myself in a way that I can't, because I feel awkward. I don't like that group aspect where I feel like I can't stick out in the way that I know I can, because I can do it my way when I do a poem. I know me,
For sure.
But if I have to fit myself inside this weird format, it's a little bit different. Don't get me wrong, like I've gotten better at this over the years. I've overcome a lot of my awkwardness, but I think a lot of that was like the root of it was just this failure to express in a way that I felt achieved what I knew my potential was. And when I rap, I love it because people go, yo, is that really you? Like, if you show them a song, they'll go, oh, is that really you? I'm like, hell yeah, it is, motherfucker. That is me.
Well, I think,
I want to impress them.
Yeah, for sure, man. And you do. And I think at the end of the day, like, that's what we don't realize as artists is that, we read you do your song or I do a piece. And, I say poetry, people think, oh, roses are red or something. And I want to hit them right in the freaking head.
Yeah.
You can't just tap people on the shoulder
No,
anymore.
you give it everything. And that's what people fuck up with performance
I wanna
and
hit
with
them
writing.
right in the head,
Hit them
man.
right in the head. People don't do that. People give half of themselves to their poems, or they go on a stage and they don't put their all into it. It's like when I recite a poem, when I even am on this podcast and I'm about to recite a poem to you, I put my whole soul into that recitation? Is that a word? That's if we did. I just found out a word on the podcast live. That's what we did. But the recital.
See,
Recital is probably what it is.
the other fun, really cool thing about English is you can freaking make up words.
You can.
And
recitation works. It's probably what sounds like resuscitation.
I remember my English teacher even mentioning something about it. Like my junior high English teacher, she said that when you come far enough as an artist, you kind of get like a artist credo. You kind of get like a artist, like writers almost like write to create your own words. To like maybe put words together.
Well, what I love with rap nowadays is what Kendrick does. Kendrick does this really well. Is he'll combine words in a way that you can't combine them in regular sentences, but it makes sense in the context of the song. Like, just because of the context of the situation, you can't say...
Now I want to hear a Lamar song. For some reason, I can't think of an example that you're...
Well, it's like if I said, if I'm rapping and I said, Me and three bitches, we all on vacation. My mom's called me up. She said, congratulations. Something like that. Like, you would never say congratulations. You would never say that. But if I make it make sense, that was a bad example, but that's just on the spot, right?
I think that was a good example. I think some other artists do the same thing. I think Eminem is, incredible at, making words kind of rhyme and come together. That
here's another one. So I make this gun pop. I go bump doot doot. When they all running, they jump through hoop. So you can't say jump through hoop. That doesn't make any sense. But I made a situation where I could say jump through hoop. And that's what I'm trying to get at.
It works.
And Eminem does that really well, too. Exactly.
It works because you made it work.
Because you made it work. And also because that's not how words are supposed to work. I'm breaking a rule. And it's the fact that I'm breaking a rule that makes it work so well, because it makes you think about it. It makes you go, wait a minute. You can't say that.
Well, I think in a genre like rap, I think all rules are out the window.
Well,
man.
and I just did what's that? Boop, boop. I made that. Because I said I made the gun go thump, boop, boop. That's an onomatopoeia. So I doubled up right there. I didn't even think about it. That's what a poet does. They don't think about these things. A lesser poet would think, oh man, I want to use some type of device here. Like, no, you're thinking too hard already. That's what I tell people. I'm like, don't even think, just do, just write the poem.
Right, and that's what. I wrote this poem that everybody loves called "Tribute to Fuck."
Yeah,
and I've revised it over 10 years. I've revised it a lot, and I'm proud of it because. But what I thought about though was, I guess I do curse a lot, and people are always reprimanding me for it, like, "Oh, watch your language," and I thought to myself, like, man, there's no other word except the F word that in some cases can be utilized. Like, no other word can, carry your point across. I was like, maybe overusing it is not a good idea. I think it's just time and place.
Right.
But I think that's definitely the point I'm trying to make in this poem.
Well, people just don't realize sometimes that some words
are relevant.
They're relevant, and some words are a fucking miracle, right?
Fuck's very versatile, man.
Yes. Well, I was waiting
as
because
I'm going to.
I felt the tension building up. There was a definite release. I had to drop the fuck real quick, but it's a powerful word because of that. Because what I used to say when I was a kid is that it's such a dynamic word. Like it's a noun, it's an adjective, it's an adverb, it's everything. You could say I did it fuckingly.
The difficult thing about this poem was that I do mention that it can be used as all those different different ways of the English language, for lack of a better term, and as I pointed out, I use it. Fucking those, but I also keep the stanza. So it's like, you guys go ahead, man. You don't know what it was. It was very difficult. You don't know what it took me to write that poem. But I mean, it's just like every other. But I've gotten even, like that was 10 years ago, and I've wrote more complicated pieces now. And I'm trying to do something no poet's done.
Yeah.
I don't know what direction, I'm going to move into, but I definitely want to make it cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to make it like people like, oh, that was cool.
So this is what I want to make cool is I've realized that in hip hop especially, there's not enough inspiration. There's not enough people going out there saying, hey, like, be yourself in a way that's actually cool. There's people who do it in a little bit, no offense to anybody, but I feel like it comes off as preachy or hokey.
Because that's not what makes money.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly.
It's not what makes money. And the people who do it are almost doing it in the family-friendly, cute way.
Could we take a bathroom break?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Sorry, man.
Yes. Do you have to be right way?
Can
I wrap this real quick? Can I recite this poem?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
I really want to, with this thread we got here, because I've been holding this one back. I wrote this long time ago, and it's just my whole rationale when it comes to the way I think about it.
I'll go for it.
Potential pumping through our hearts, in between temples, undiscovered art. I put it in a pencil, push another part of my passion, a ration, a match to a spark to inspire. I wanna see you start a fire, reach far higher, be a hard trier, lead your life like a legacy, like a bright lights gleaming and you're set to leave. Look, readiness doesn't have a recipe. Pettiness doesn't have necessity. The time ticks by, waiting on the levity as I drift by, chasing skies ahead of me. And I could let it go, let it be, but I know a lesson, you will never make a better me. So make the most of what's left of your energy and go, please. And then there's a little bit more to it. You know what? I'm gonna do we see the sun, but we don't wanna climb, cause we could be the ones to make a waste to find the time. Well, I can see the sun, and I wanna shine. I'll climb each rung, reach the sky, bottom line. I feel the need to run, if you need to feel the rhyme. I need to feel of one, I need to ease my mind. Once the deed is done, I see a scene to find. The peace isn't mine, I gotta greet the grind. I wanna be the guy, I gotta be the man. It's been a dream, a drive of mine, I believe I can, and I won't even lie, I keep her carried out. I lift my feet to fly despite a scary cloud. I'll take a very route. If you know the name, go insane, wear it out. I wanna hold the rain, I wanna bear a crown, but don't we all? I gotta go for it. Down, and then the chorus comes in. But whole point being, man,
yeah.
it's making it cool. I'm taking that idea of like, hey, be yourself and do and go out and do shit. I'm taking that motivational advice and I'm turning it into just an actually dope rap without making it feel forced or making it feel like I'm trying to write the song. That's like, I think there's not enough of that. There's not enough of communicating it in a way that people feel and they identify with it. They're like, that's a new spin on that idea that makes me think about it differently.
That's what makes me want to collaborate with artists like you, because you the only reason that you're doing this is for the people.
Yeah.
For the people to get inspired, and if you can help heal, emotionally one person or inspire one person, make someone's like day or life, better for that one couple of minutes, that you're playing that track, or doing whatever you're doing as an artist, like that's what we live for.
Yeah.
That's what we live for. That's why, I stayed up till dusk till dawn, covered in sweat, sparring with a pen, because I did it not for and no other reason but to make people like showcase it from my point of view, but in a way that they've never heard before.
Yeah.
Approach it from like not from the front or the back, from the side.
Yeah.
Just like you started, like you can start a sentence like, I'm going to the store, or you can say, there's a store that I'm going to. Like it just depends. Now it makes the store more important.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's a store that you're going to? What is this store? I'm going to the store. Like, everybody goes to the store almost every day. Like,
but
who
it's not
cares?
even just that. It's like the entire framing of that is the entire. There's so much that goes on there, even because if you want to break that down, it's like, I'm going to the store. Okay, that's interesting. But what if you said,
what are you shopping for?
What do you? Well, not even that. It's the way you start the story. So I'm going to the store is a hook, but it's not a good one. If you really want to start that story in a way that's going to get people interested, you're going to say, I need to go to the store. Say it like that. Maybe say I was counting on my change this morning. I had the exact amount I need to go to the store. If I say it that way, now you're going to wonder, what do you need at the store that you need to count the exact amount of change? It's the setup. But it's like, that's another thing about the English language and the way we frame things and stories and the way we think. It's like, so much goes on in that setup and so much goes on in the way that we frame. And that's a poem too, is when you're thinking about the framework of a poem and what are they hearing? What is everything that the listener gets to interpret here? Because if you don't go into it with enough intentionality, I feel like the poem lacks substance.
I feel like one way I try to capture people's attention is kind of like sarcasm and satire.
Ah, yeah.
Because I feel
Attribute
like
the fuck is kind of that.
you know, satire, you know, attributive fuck is a great example of that, and yet there's you know, there's an epic lesson.
Yeah.
You know, there's an epic point that I'm trying to make. There's an intricate point
That's
that I'm
what
trying
great
to
comedy
make.
does. Great comedy is making the point, but it's doing it in a way that also makes people laugh and identify with it.
Right, and you know, there's a couple of pieces that I have that are serious, but if I am doing a serious piece, it's got to be super unique. You know, like
Yeah.
like I can't just do the same thing that's been done, because like almost like even like maybe rappers can get away with it almost. Like, I hate to say it. You know I love to see people do like you know, new style, but to be able to do what I'm trying to do, revolutionize poetry, I cannot get away with it.
No.
I can't get away with just, you know, using the same concepts and the same style, but at the same time, Bobby Frost and you know Kipling and you know, all those guys are always in my head, always in the back of my mind. That if by Kipling, you know, that's an epic poem. Nobody's ever gonna. Nobody needs to write and say, you know, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance to run. Nobody will ever say it like Kipling did. That's beautiful. I mean, it doesn't need to be so. We have to just come up with, you know. But can the modern kind of this new generation, this generation that just like has bombarded with screens and, you know, 10-second videos, you know, I think some of them, I don't, it's not to say that I, you know, don't discredit them. I don't discredit them. I think these kids are smart. In some ways, they're, you know, this technology revolution, you know, in some ways they're smarter than we were, you know, maybe when we were growing up. But at the same time, I think attention spans have dwindled, you know, like, so I always think of, you know, Dead Poets Society. Like, those guys actually got together, like, and read poetry, like, read the greats, the epic, like, who does that nowadays? Like, most likely they're gonna be listening to Kendrick Lamar or something, you know.
It's leading by example, I think, because I listen to a lot of podcasting. That's why I like to do this, because to me, that's what keeps a lot of my curiosity alive, is just hearing people talk to one another and hearing that real, genuine interaction and curiosity and willingness to learn. I think that's what keeps philosophy alive, right? Is the willingness to explore those thoughts.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And that's what, when you say all of that, I feel like what you're getting at is the depth of philosophy, right? Like, is it over? Are we just going to move into this age of people not thinking? And I hope not. I really hope not. I think that people are as deep as you allow them to be, is how I like to think of it. Like, when I have someone in front of me, if I want to explore the depth of that person, it's as far as I want to go. It's the things that I'm willing to ask. It's my curiosity that will guide that situation. So a lot of it is that. It's us needing to have genuine curiosity in one another and getting out of these damn screens and just looking at each other and saying, hey, why do you feel that way? And listening, because that's where the true knowledge is. That's where we really learn.
Yeah, I think that's what people don't realize, is that when someone's doing a piece, or like, or even if they're doing a song that's not an original, like, why did they pick that song?
Yeah.
Why are they relating to this song? Like, is it just a piece that they learn how to do well, or why did that piece inspire them?
Because there's a story there that you could never conceive or make up.
There's
you have
definitely
to. You can't even. There's no way you can conceptualize a story. You just have to ask, because they'll pull something out of nowhere. They'll be like, well, when I was 5, this happened, and it's just all of a sudden you opened up a new rabbit hole, and they hadn't thought about that in 6 years because nobody ever asks them that question. There's a whole thing that happens there when you're willing to explore one another. I think that it's a beautiful thing. It's like I know it because when I ask people questions, I watch them light up. I watch them like, because they want to talk about it. They've
Absolutely.
been waiting.
I think that, and that's what, like, I think that people can relate to, like, what there's, relevant genres are, like, their favorite rap or whatever. Like, I think a lot of these rappers that do, and I'm not gonna mention any names, it's just here and there. You got your songs that just basically are just like club hits that were made to just make money, and they talk about being they talk about riches and wealth, whatever these kids think is cool to relate. Unfortunately nowadays drug use and it's violence and it's greed, kind of, the lust for gold and all that. And I love to hear an artist that just goes completely different way and doesn't give a fuck.
Well, there was a song I wrote where I was trying to be meta with that concept. I think I could do it better now, but it is out. I can't remember what it's called, but it's out on streaming platforms. It's called Image. That's what it's called. And I say, what a life when the aim is an image. This no game, it's scrimmage. As in, like, we're not even taking this shit serious. Like, and the aim is in an image. We're thinking about how we're portrayed and not the true reality of the soul. That the soul is a dynamic, beautiful thing that's not an image at all. An image is just something you place on top of the soul and try to define it with. The soul is not the image.
Yeah, like, obviously that's always been important to me because I remember paying attention in English class and in composition when the teacher was explaining, like, what that artist, that writer was feeling, like, why they wrote it this way, why they did it, they break down the old English, like the Shakespearean English, like Shakespeare was actually way ahead of his time,
Yeah.
Like, that's another, Bill. And if he was alive now, he'd be like a badass movie producer or something. His name would be like Billy Shake, or something. Bill Shakespeare, or something. But I don't know why he'd go by Bill. I don't know. But back then, he's William Shake. Back then he was struggling, writing these, some of these plays never made it on stage because his proprietors that were actually, investing money in this read them and they were like, whoa, yeah, the kings come in, the queens come. Like, are you crazy? Like, we're not going to do this on stage. And he was like, damn. And he had to go back and revise it, and
You're telling me I have to cut out the incest scene just because the king's here?
Yeah, I got to read it, I gotta, back then it was
like
all
when you get censored by
men
a
doing
TV network.
women's parts, and and that was okay, guys dressing up in drag. Now it's because women weren't allowed on stage. I mean,
That's what I was about to say. It's like today when a TV network tells you can't do something. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, and it's like I
different-
think back to like people always like what they know. I always think back to the fact that Egyptians put sand in their bread because they didn't know any better that it rots your teeth. You know what I mean? Like, they needed something to hold the dough together. That's what they needed, and that's what they use. Imagine what we don't know, but
Well, it's probably the case that 50%. Or I heard Andrew Huberman, shout him out all the time on the podcast. He got a great one of his own, Huberman Lab. I think I heard him say that 30 to 50% of modern medical knowledge is probably incorrect. Or maybe just modern scientific knowledge. Because that's how it's always been throughout
Very
history.
possible.
There's not even very possible. It's mostly likely because that's what it always is. And we think about ourselves like we know everything, but 200 years ago, think about the things we were doing. Bloodletting wasn't even that long ago.
It's funny that I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, but they, bloodlet people.
Yeah.
Back in Roman times,
Yeah.
or they thought that eating kidney beans would be good for your kidneys, or stuff like that.
But for some reason, we think now we got it figured out. Now
but they
we
couldn't
know.
figure out that using the same tongue dispenser on every single patient in that line is spreading germs. Like now we know, what viruses are. So yeah, I'm sure there's tons that we still don't know and that we still don't realize.
150 years from now, we figure out that like there was a fart disease all along.
And it's the same way with genres like rap and poetry. Like, I'm trying to figure out how, there's ways to do it that we have not figured out. And I think I figured out some of the ways. I think some people are scared to do it that way because they feel like they won't be able to relate. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do it completely different. And then people hear it and they're like, holy shit, that's not what I thought of. When I could tell by the expression on their face, that's not what I thought of. And I'm getting to that point,
We need leaders, man. We need leaders. There's not enough leaders. That goes with that whole thing that you were describing with people being sucked into social media and phones and this and that, is that we've lost this sense of true leadership where, like, we think that that's the platform, is going on and posting something and getting likes. Like, no, true leadership is changing things through your actions. It's having a principle. It's going out there and being the character that you are and allowing others to perceive that how they will, because you know that is true. No one else has to tell you. Yeah. That's a true leader. And I think that you have to have that mindset. You can't be a follower. If you're a follower, then you do all that same bullshit everybody else does. And I refuse. I will not be that man. I can't be that man. Matter of fact, I literally don't operate that way. I couldn't if I tried. So I'm stuck being this leader.
Right, like, I mean, it's almost like, even if you use cliches, like, use them, steal, like, I believe it was, my buddy Seth was talking about it on your podcast, steal like an artist.
Yes. Yeah.
You have to steal like an artist. Like, yeah, man. What's going on? I mentioned Seth too.
Well, I know Joey Koff had a great quote too, where he said, "Good artists borrow, great artists steal." And it actually, when I was looking it up, I don't know if that's the exact quote, but it originates in Steve Jobs. It was actually a Steve Jobs quote. And so it's the idea, I imagine, is that a good artist would borrow your idea, but a great artist is going to take it and make it their own.
Well, I think if you steal like a great artist, people won't even notice.
Exactly.
People won't even notice, and that artist will know maybe and be flattered.
Or insulted. One of the two.
Maybe, or insulted. Yeah, so one of the most interesting things about me, I think, is like we were talking about like the artist experience. So like having grown up in Flint and, having kind of grown up, learned English on the north side of Flint, I actually lived in Sunridge Apartments, Suncrest Drive right down the road there. And having experienced all those dynamics, I have like, that kind of book street smart thing going on. I mean, I think I'm like the epitome of it almost, because, I have like, I obviously I try to stay off these streets but I mean, I've definitely, done my party, I've been out here, Flint's just, I've lost friends to gun violence, and, I've lost friends to, drug overdoses, and, I've definitely, experienced that other side, but also, I'm into reading. I'm into, Shakespeare. I'm into, just one of my favorite authors. The last book I read was The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. Amazing. Yeah. The guy grew up, his perspective, he grew up in Afghanistan, right around the time when, the Taliban was kind of taking over and the extremists, and then Russia was at war with them, so he wrote this beautiful story, and then nobody could write the way he could write. Nobody could write the way that another one of my favorite authors, goodness, he wrote a book called Super Sad True Love Story. He's actually a Russian guy who grew up in New York, and he came here when he was young, like me. So he's got like a kind of a similar perspective. But what my perspective is, like, I seen Flint dwindle down. You know, I seen the houses get boarded up, you know, over a period of time. So I seen that. Like I don't, you know, I'm not obviously not into gangs or anything like that. But I mean, it's kind of sad the way that, you know, people's kind of mindset is. But I also have the perspective of like a well-read, pretty well-read, you know, writer, you know, someone who's, you know, definitely takes inspiration from other authors. You know, I've definitely read a lot when I was a kid, you know, so I kind of got both of those perspectives. So that definitely reflects a lot in my poetry. And there's a piece that I definitely wanted to do. It's actually called Flintastic, and it's dedicated to one of my good friends that was a victim of gun violence.
Well, here's what we should do then. Because I think we got about a good 45 minutes left on the clock here. So well, how about we start jumping into some of the poems you might want to recite, and then we can talk about them and break them down.
Did you want me to do tribute first?
Yeah. Let's do that first.
Tell me, why does fuck have such a bad reputation? What a versatile word with a great connotation. Can be used as a noun, verb, or exclamation. Utilized in any and all situations. Like I don't give a fuck, fuck off, or damn it, fuck me. Just give fuck a chance, and soon you'll see it'll highlight your whole vocabulary. Add a suffix and it forms a magical link. Fuck's an adjective now to describe many things, like my fucking job sucks and this fucking car's junk. When this fucking shift's over, I'm going to get drunk. Any sentence is better with an adverb in there, like shut the fuck up, or I don't fucking care. Just think all those times that fuck's had you covered. Like telling your boss off, seducing your lover, when no other word can describe your frustration. It sits in your arsenal waiting real patient. It likes to jump out and surprise conversations. But I didn't write this because I'm so fucking witty. I just care for words, and I think it's real shitty the way the poor fuck always gets reprimanded. You must not have read the first fucking amendment. It's all in how we use it, so I'm here to defend it. So fuck you if you hear this and now you're offended because you think I'm a sinner who's going to hell. If you don't like the F word, then go fuck yourself.
Fuck yeah. Shout out Iambic Pentameter.
That was, you know, I think that when I wrote that, you know, and I think it took me a while to write that, and I think I finally have revised it to where I like it, you know.
It only took a decade.
You know. Yeah. But I think just working on that poem, I think I started realizing that the pieces I do, like, they're not like, and I've tried to read. I've read so many different people's pieces. I try to keep up with like modern poets and who's relevant. There's some amazing, beautiful poets, but they're doing their thing. I haven't yet to find anybody who's kind of doing it like I am.
I feel the same way about the way I approach music, and it almost makes me feel like a madman. I'm like, is it really just me? Like I almost feel like I'm telling myself that I have to be crazy. There has to be someone else that's doing the same type of thing. Can't find them. I don't think it exists. Right. Same thing with like what you're saying about that poem, because I get what you're saying is like it's your approach. It's the whole mentality that you go into a poem with. Nobody does it like you do it.
I'm definitely try, and I think that nobody does it the way I do it because of the experience that I've had, because of the perspective that I've had.
No one could. No one possibly could. It's impossible. And that is, okay, so catch me taking notes as I carve a frame of reference. Shout out Kubrick, PTA, Coppola, Lynch, Zemeckis. The dopest will give you, the dopest will give you presents. The real keep it alive. The loan you a way to express it or feel, a way of vibe. Passion takes a bribe like the masses take it slow. So I laugh when patience dies. I ain't had to wait before. What comes after ain't advised. It's insinuated though. In the palette, it's implied when a splash of paint compose. No rhyme, never know why. Don't repeat, don't lie. Everything is intuition, easy. Brief intermissions, the mission is in the scene. Read the message in the method, the vision is how you see. See? Super simple. The inherent is iconic. Something in your spirit, imperative in your pocket. Life will break it down, but the better build it up. Dig deeper than the sound. Stay physical, miss the touch.
Damn.
What that song is about.
Is it the way you memorize your bit? Wow. That's amazing.
Dude, I was trying to say every word counts. It's a bitch to memorize my raps. Because if I miss one, I fucking have to like, all right, well, like where...
And I smoke pot, too.
I know. That's the worst part is like, you have to be careful on how far away you want to get from yourself before you're going to try to represent your music.
Sometimes I get something memorized and then I revise it. And then, the brain, exercise leads you back to the way you did it the first time. And I got to remind myself, like, oh, I changed that part. I changed that part.
Oh, it's so hard.
And it sounds better,
See, you were saying how you rewrote a tribute to Fuck. See, that's incredible because if I rewrote something multiple times over the course of 10 years and I had to memorize it every time, like re-memorize it.
Just little tweaks.
That would be tough on me, though, because I would always do it the way I did it the first time. It would take me so long to read.
I think I've done that one poem so many times.
Yeah.
That I remember the first open mic I ever went to at Good Beans Cafe, which I'm so grateful that I was exposed to that whole scene, and that I was scared out of my mind. I couldn't even look at anybody. I've gone from that to just being able to walk on stage, pick up a microphone, and make fun of anybody, just start talking shit, I had a friend of mine say, "Oh, you should do a couple of jokes." I'm like, "Yeah, that would be a good idea." I feel like all my friends are like musicians and artists, and I feel like I'm just like talking shit in a rhythmic pattern. Like sometimes I'm just like I feel retarded. I was doing a poem, but no, but everybody seems to like relate to it, and I really am like you said, like, am I really doing something? Am I actually doing something different? Like, I hope so.
Well, I think that way. I think that's why I'm really thinking about doing stand-up too. Is that I've noticed just bringing people in here and just talking the way I talk, I'll make people laugh a lot, and I'm not even trying. So I think
you could be. I mean, but there,
it's recognizing
there
that
are different people who have different senses of humor.
Yeah,
so
and different people have different sense of humor, and in that there are different personalities. You have your own personality, so the fact that people recognize that humor in your personality you can't even see, like you have to just find a way to pump that up. Like if you ever see a comedian, they're just playing into that part of themselves that people think is funny.
For sure. And I grew up in Flint, so I'm like, I don't know, I'm kind of angry, man. So I hate cheesy shit.
Are you familiar with Bill Burr?
I hate cheesy shit.
You know that comedian Bill Burr?
Yeah.
I think
so
that his style might fit you a little bit.
Hey, how you guys doing? Just flew in here, arms kind of tired. Like, nah, dude. Nah.
No, but that's the thing. You go out there and you just say, man, I saw the stupidest shit this morning, just like Bill Burr would.
Like,
you complain out there.
My friend introduced me to this guy that did 10 years in prison.
Okay.
And he's definitely got some fucking story. So he's in there with some guy.
He's a comedian?
No.
Oh.
He's just, an ex...
con? Is that what you call
it? Convict. But he's actually, he's done his time. He's actually a decent guy. So I got a chance to talk to him and meet him. He was telling me about a man that he's in there with that was... like every story I hear, I try to find a joke in it. That's what Jerry Seinfeld's advice was. He was telling me about a man that was in there for stay with me, guys. Performing fellatio on his dog.
Okay.
And like right away, I'm like thinking like
doggy style.
Man, they put this guy in prison. They should make him the fucking poster child for adoption. I'm like, think about how lucky this fucking dog is, man. shelter and fellatio. Like, he's probably fucking bragging to the neighbor dogs, like, hey, how you guys doing? Hey, what, your fucking human don't suck you off, man?
Yeah, I bet that
well,
neighbor...
you guys don't know what you're missing, man. You think licking yourselves is fun, you know? Like, that's, you know, but it's like, if you're a good comedian, like, if you're got that sarcasm and, like, kind of an ass, you know, kind of like that's, you know, sarcastic asshole, kind of like that. I felt like the first time, like, I almost came in character, you know, like, you know, and is it the character? Is that just me? Like, I realized, like, I know I really am that sarcastic asshole. I went from a shy little freaking immigrant kid who was, you know, terrified that first day of school, you know, in a new country to, I can't, man, my girlfriend tells me that she, you know, sometimes she's just like, be quiet. I just can't listen to you anymore. You know, it was just like, but I definitely have, you know, being exposed to all these artists and all these talented, wonderful human beings who have persuaded me and inspired me. You know, at the same time, I mean, it's been an amazing experience. I'm so grateful that I've gotten to evolve as an artist, and that's why my poetry doesn't sound like anybody else's. You know, it's all these different perspectives that I got. You know, being an immigrant, growing up in Flint, you know, being even like the way, you know, the dynamic between me and my parents, me and who I was friends with, all these different things. I could have been friends with, you know, the upper class echelon, so to speak, you know, maybe, or you know, I could have picked and chose, but I went down the road I went down.
Yeah.
You know, and it wasn't the one always the easy one. It wasn't always, you know, the popular one. You know, definitely Robert Frost. I mean, that poem, you know, Robert Frost no one's ever said it better, I think. Maybe people have said it. I'm sure he's been inspired by people, but I definitely understand what he meant by, you know, chose the one less traveled by. And it's made all the difference. Because if I hadn't have chosen those less traveled by roads, I don't know if I would be the artist I would be. I don't know if I would be able to use words the way that I'm able to use them now. You know, people would tell me like, oh, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, I got to see for myself.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes like I ran away, like, you know, it was a bad situation. Like, okay, don't go over there, but at least I know now.
Well, yeah, it's like if everybody's saying it's A, an artist will say, no, it's B. I know it's B. You'll hear everybody saying it's A, but he knows it's B. There's another quote I heard just recently, and I wish I could remember who said it, but it's like the worst thing about being right is when you know the times say it ain't so. Something like that, in the sense that you know you're right. In your heart and soul, you know you're right. But the times just haven't caught up to you yet.
But I think that anyone who's doing anything new and trying to revolutionize anything, the times are never caught up to them.
No, exactly.
You know,
you have to show you're a leader.
And they're always going to be scrutinized.
Yes.
Because people, I think, instinctively are scared of change.
Yes, and this is the thing people don't get to, is to truly create change, you will, the scrutiny and the criticism is confirming that you are making a difference. Like, if you weren't making a difference, you wouldn't get that. You need to create adversity within people. You need people to say, they'll look at you and they'll say, this is whack. Like, if you make a song, if I'm truly branching out and I'm making a creative song, I'm getting nervous about it because I know it's not like my other stuff. I put it out and then somebody comments, this is whack. But what about those 30 people who loved it? And they're like, yo, this is fire. I'm going to see that one person say this is whack and I'll be worried about them. It's like, no, it's putting that out there and knowing
Right.
that person saying it's whack is just confirming that I did try something different,
But
and
that-
they can't. It's making them feel something. It's the adversity. It's the true difference that I'm representing. I'm not like other
That's
shit.
how you know you did something
Yeah.
right. If it pissed somebody off,
Yes, exactly.
then it's art, man.
You need to piss people off.
If it piss somebody off, it's got to piss somebody off. One person. It's got to make someone feel. A friend told me once that art is anything that evokes emotion.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I mean. Like, I never looked at it that way. Art is anything, but also you can't underestimate. But what I'm worried about is the relevance of those people that are kind of, doing the same thing, like their comfort level, or starting out, poets that are doing that. Oh, the passion in my soul burns like 1,000 fires. Like, awesome. But how many freaking people? But it's been done to death. If I say the passion within my heart burns like 1,000 fires, nobody's gonna fucking care, because it's been done. He said it. He already said it. Why am I gonna say it? No, I can't. You can use it, and you can use it, and you can say it in your own way, but not if you're gonna revolutionize the genre. And I feel like this kind of satiric, almost like satiric yet passionate style that I've developed is what kind of works for me. And even if I do write like a more serious piece, I try to make it like I try to make one poem like a conversation. Like how many people put conversations in poetry? How many people use personifications? Well, like do you want me to do another piece?
Go for it.
Like, for example, so I couldn't think of a way to use dark as a positive, but so I wrote a poem about what if death was one of my good friends.
Okay.
I used to be afraid of him. I used to think he's cruel until I met him face to face. Now me and death, we're cool. Projectile metal at my chest or pierce me with a blade. Rip my heart out and take a bite. Go ahead, I'm not afraid. If I get drunk and break my neck while falling down the stairs, then I shall chalk it up to fate. No reason to be scared. Last night we had a couple beers and shot a game of pool. We talked about love, life, and sport. See, me and death, we're cool. So if I perish in a crash or drown inside a lake, malignant tumors in my lungs because my cells mutate, someone slips poison in my cup or I get mauled by bears, then I will know my time has come. Life's very seldom fair. He said he dreads the day he gets that parchment with my name. Replied, just do your job, my friend. I get it, it's okay. See, those who blame their fate on death don't seem to understand. He has no toil in how and why. He just knows who, where, when. So if I'm bitten by a snake or go down on a plane, found drowning in a pool of blood because someone slit a vein, asphyxiate, fall off a cliff, get gored by angry bulls, I'll greet my friend with open arms. See, me and death, we're cool.
Beautiful. One moment. I have to shove the cat away from the door because she's having a moment. I knew she would do this. Get back! Stop that! Stop that! I can't let you out. I have to take her very soon. She was just like, I heard her meowing. I was waiting for her to go up to the door and scratch.
That's a gorgeous cat you got.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm more of a dog person. As a matter of fact, I've trained, rehabbed, shelter dogs. American Pit Bulls are one of my favorite. I think they're just misunderstood, kind of like me.
Yeah.
They're a misunderstood breed, and there's all this breed legislation, which that's a whole different topic that I want to talk about. I'm surprised I haven't wrote a poem about like
you can make death a dog.
pits. I definitely my pit bull, she was my best friend. Her name was Roxana. I had her for 13 years, and she got sick. I I had to say goodbye to her. But it was one of the best friends I ever had. So I'm definitely an animal lover.
Yeah.
I like cats. I enjoy cats, but I gravitate towards dogs more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Cats and dogs comes up a lot on this show, too. Probably just because of
The
cats and
animals
dogs
are
in this
awesome.
house.
But by the way, Adopt Don't Shop and Genesee County Animal Control. It's been rebuilt, revised. They have an airflow system, so it doesn't smell in there anymore. They don't have any more top kennels. Each dog has their own large bottom kennel. Those people, they put their heart into what they do. I volunteered with them for about 2-3 years. I want to, in the future, get back to it.
Yeah. Adopt, don't shop. Deport, don't abort. I really think that those... This is a comedy podcast, folks. I really think that...
Let's not talk about...
that popped in my brain as you said it. I was like, well, we're on the thread of comedy. This will work. I can say it. I'm allowed to say it. See, that's the thing. It's like what you said earlier about finding the humor in anything. Like, you really got me rolling with that, because I wanted to say while you were saying the bit... I wanted to say while you were saying the bit, like... Oh, this guy's really got it all figured out. Like, your whole dog setup. I'm not even going to go back over it. The folks remember, they remember. I wanted to say his neighbor would probably call him up and say, hey, throw a man a bone. You know what I'm saying? Because he's boning his dog.
It's just, see, Jerry Seinfeld, he said if you get one joke, you should be able to get one joke out of any... topic or situation or whatever you see.
Well, yeah,
he said if you get 2, you're a fucking professional. If you get 3, you're an epic comedian.
Interesting. That's an interesting one. I've never heard that. So this is what I see most big comedians do, is they'll have a sticky note with a simple template there. Like, they had an idea, they write down the sticky note, or they get it, they put it down really quick. And then now you build jokes out of that concept. Like earlier, when I was giving you an example of my stand-up, that's because I know in my notes I have Flint things as one of my sticky notes. That's just Flint things. Because that's something you
Things that you only see in Flint.
Yeah.
Things that...
And you actually came up with a great tagline for me, because as I said it, you said, welcome to Flint, Michigan. That is a great punch.
You don't have to go too far. I mean... one of my hobbies is just simply looking through discarded things on the side of the road. You see a guy on a bike collecting trash on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's other cities that they do that at, but I feel like I invented that game. But by the way, and I'm so far, I am winning bicycle scrap. I don't know
bicycle scrap Olympics.
Yeah, the bicycle scrap Olympics. I'm pretty sure I'm winning it. Sometimes I've seen, like, I found more stuff than guys with trucks sometimes.
He literally found his gold medal scrapping. That's how he found his Olympic
one day
gold
I'm
medal.
going to find a T-shirt that says everything I needed, I found on the side of the road,
Yeah, including dinner.
Well...
This is a comedy podcast, folks.
Hopefully you don't have to go that far, but
listen. As a comedian, this is what you got to do.
If it's non-perishable,
if it's non-perishable, exactly. This is what I've learned is the best thing, and it's just conversational. It's the best way to go for conversations. Yes, and it always is what you do. So when I say that you eat roadkill, you immediately got to accept the fact that you're the butt of the joke and you do eat roadkill.
Oh, absolutely. You know what? As a matter of fact, one of my neighbors, he's barbecuing one day. It smells delicious.
Okay.
I walked up because we have what's called a catwalk in Flint. If you guys aren't familiar, it's basically a paved road that goes right through that you can bike on. And
catwalk. Okay.
Bike path.
Is it called that because there's cats as roadkill on the side of it?
Well,
or something?
maybe I don't know. Catwalk dog. Well, I guess it depends. We're going back to that cat dog
personality
again. But no, I don't know. I call it a bike path, I guess. But so I'm walking down the bike path, and one of the neighbors, he's got this big, huge dumbbell grill. You know, he's like, "Hey, you want to try this?" He's like, and he told me what he's like. It's it was roadkill that he actually grilled. Yeah, it was not squirrel, but possum, I believe. And he gave me a piece, and I'm an adventurous thing. Like I'll eat just about anything. There's very few rare things, especially being from the Soviet Union, man. Like Russian people aren't picky. Like we eat some things, but anyways, so like I tried it and it was awesome.
Yeah.
The way he made it was awesome. And you could see like it was just the body. It wasn't a lot of meat on it, but the piece I tried was actually really good. So I've ate roadkill, like I think I've always kind of been the butt of the joke and I think I'm over it.
I don't mind. It's the yes and. Like if it works better for this piece of art we're making, if I have to be the butt of the joke to make this work, I will be. That's how I look at it.
What I didn't realize is that you can actually get laid doing poetry.
Yeah.
And stand up.
Especially stand up. People like that you're a funny guy or that you're and what the poetry thing is like as a musician or an artist, they like the vulnerability of it. It's a lot of that. It's like it takes a certain type of person to do those things.
I'm kidding, guy. What I mean is
I'm not.
It actually it actually I don't want to demean women. It's not just about
don't talk about the bitches like that.
You can portray yourself as confident but willing to be vulnerable, confident enough to be vulnerable. That balance between confidence and vulnerability, that where I just don't give a fuck. I'll go on stage and say whatever the fuck. I don't care. I was making fun of the host. I said something along the lines of Brad's like Brad Lee, by the way, very talented musician.
Is he Asian?
Nope, I don't believe so. I believe you know him.
That's a joke, Brad Lee.
See, these are the kind of jokes that might get a laugh or might get like.
That's what I'm going for, man. I'm trying to walk the line.
You're trying to walk the cricket line. Like the worst thing. And I was so relieved, too. But I said something along the line like, Brad is single-handedly responsible for the extinction of virginity in Genesee County. Because of his rugged jawline. But I mean, obviously that's an exaggeration, and I knew it. I knew I could pick on him because he's a friend, because he is comfortable being the center of attention because of it. Now, every joke has a little truth in it.
Yes.
Is Brad a ladies' man? Yes. He just happens to be that as well. Would the joke be funny if he wasn't? I don't think so. You know what I mean? Like it had to be the right person, the right setup.
Well, that's why I mentioned comedy in the first place. That's why we brought it up, because it's the language. It's the way that you utilize every single bit of that. And the best comedy bits, the best jokes, are performed with such a craftsmanship that you can barely even see that it happened. Like it's so natural that you barely even realize the amount. You can't tell the amount of work that goes into a bit when it's done well. And that bit went through 10 different versions, just like your poem did through 10 different years. It takes a long time to iron out a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
Well, one thing I got to, right after I did my first podcast with Brendan Klein, BK to Great 08, I should have called him, oh man, I just revealed his government name. Whoopsies. Now they know. That's how I feel when people say my...
You can Google that shit, bro.
I know, it's not hard to find.
It's all good.
But it sounds cooler when I say BK, when I had BK to Great 08 up into his house.
BK to Great 08.
I had him up in here, and right after we finished, I was talking to him, and we were in this great conversation about how you really realize through comedy the amount of collaboration that goes into creation, in the sense that if I were to create a funny TikTok right here, if I pull up my phone, I make a funny little video and I do a little skit, I don't realize how people react to that. I never do. I can only tell by the way they like and they comment. But when you go on a stage and you do a stand-up bit, you see in real time, like, oh, they didn't laugh at that part. Oh, this was a little bit drawn out. Let me cut that off. You can feel every single moment out in a way that you never
can feel
could.
it. When I got off, well, there's no stage really at Tenacity, so when I say I got off stage, when I was done with my routine, when I was done with my open mic session,
yeah, when you were in the back in the green room.
Oh my God, I felt this like high for about a week.
Yeah.
There's nothing like really people reacting, because laughter really does heal. And when people like can relate to the joke, but I guarantee that you're always going to offend someone if you make a majority laugh. There's going to be that one person, that's like butthurt about the way you said it or how you said it. Like, I didn't realize, like, in my routine, I even said something about, like, heavy set ladies. I don't know how to say it without offending people, which I have dated, plus size, whatever, and I said something to the effect, I just want, I'm getting old, I'm kind of tired, I just want like a sandwich and, a fat chick and a bag of weed,
Yeah.
and I had to think like right away, I saved myself, because I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, no, I'm kidding, I've always wanted a fat chick, I'm like, I love fat chicks are awesome,
Well,
like that, like, but you don't realize when you're doing the joke, and then even people laugh, but I'm like, maybe I've offended some heavy.
Well, there's this
set,
beautiful Picasso quote, man, that I always think about. It's when it comes to that, and it's, the beach doesn't care about a sandy vagina.
That's
beach,
a badass Picasso quote.
I know.
Man. I didn't know Picasso. Did Picasso really say that?
No, that's another bit. I'm on a roll over here, man.
You know what? Who knows? The guy cut his ear off and gave it to a hooker. He can fucking.
He might as well have wrote that down.
It doesn't sound like something that you would say with a Dutch accent 100 years ago, but who the fuck knows?
Right, I'm not one to judge.
Perhaps you're not paraphrasing.
But yeah, like, what I really mean is that it goes back to that thing I said about the hate confirms that you're doing something different too. Like, unless the scales are completely tipped and it's all hate, and sometimes what you do doesn't line up with the times, like we said. So it's all these things. Like, you have to just recognize truly what you are and know what your intent is, and then also recognize how that does play out in real time, and then how you can morph those two things, how you can transform each of them into one another and have that perfect configuration.
Like some people are more sensitive than others. Like, those jokes that are like too soon. You know?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if I should start. Like, after 9/11, some Russian people made this joke up, and it works in translation somewhat. Some jokes don't work in translation.
Continue.
But the joke goes, Bin Laden calls up President Bush and goes, look, I got good news and I got bad news. Bush goes, what's the good news? He goes, I surrender. What's the bad news? I'm flying up there right now. And it's like, the joke is fine. Like, the punchline is there, but I'm sure there was a lot of people that might have been, especially when it first happened, like, you're not gonna make a joke about COVID, to at someone's funeral that died of COVID. I don't know. Maybe you might. It just depends. You got to know your audience, I guess.
Yeah.
You got to know. It's like, is my grandma sitting out there? That your grandma's sitting out there. You don't want to make the raunchy sex jokes. It's like, shh. But unless you just like, but you're at the same time a comedian. If you're getting paid for that shit, you're like, fuck grandma. You're like, grandma, get over it. Like, fucking.
You'd be out there using her pantyhose as a lasso at a certain point.
Like, yeah, I eat pussy all the time. Oh, this is my grandmother, everybody. Like, grandma's sitting there just fucking red in the face, like, oh my God, like what? Like you don't invite your grandma to your like run. You gotta just know your audience, you know.
You do.
Like I'm just using the grandma as an example. Like some people's parents are cool. They're more like loose. Like I couldn't do jokes like that in front of my mother, knowing my mother is in the. I guess I'd have to like close my eyes and not look at her. Some people have a different dynamic with their parents. It just depends,
Some people would picture her naked.
God,
that helps on stage.
Yeah, now that is one freaking grotesque Oedipus reference, man. That is just, you just
like I say, I'm on fire over here. Okay,
yeah.
That's something.
This guy over here, he's full of one-liners, man.
I'm telling you, I need to get on a stage immediately. I know this.
He's full of cheesy one-liners, man. He'll kill that shit, man.
Bro, I'm telling you, I'm straight up cheddar.
No, that's what's up, man. You know what? Go ahead, do it, man. I mean, what do you got to lose at this point? I mean, you're on YouTube.
Not only that, but when I'm in Chicago, I'll have a primed audience. I think in Flint, it's harder. Like I haven't done comedy around here, but I think people out there are going out to have a night, so they're ready to have a time.
Can you imagine the open mics in Chicago?
That's what
I would love to come down there and do one with you, man.
So listen, we're getting
do
towards
a podcast with you in Chicago.
Okay, so listen, we're getting towards the end of the podcast here anyway, so this is a perfect moment for me to invite you out, man, because this is what I like to be. Every time I've been having people come through, I've been saying to them, like, hey, I am leaving Flint, but I want to be a bridge from Flint to Chicago. I want to be your reason to come out. So how I go there, I take the train. It's $66 both ways. So all you got to do is be able to stay somewhere for a night or two.
Or a bus.
And once you get there, then you get the public transport, and that's $5 a day. So you're paying $5 to get all around the city, and you don't have to deal with parking and paying for all that and the traffic. You're not thinking about any of that. You're just getting around on public transport, and you came in on the train. I'm telling you, it's the way to do it. You save so much money because you're not paying.
Can you bring a pedal bike on your train, or
yes, you can pay like $20 to bring a bike.
Or can you rent a pedal bike while you're there?
Both.
Or just steal a pedal. It's Chicago, man. You got to steal a bike. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, listen,
I'm kidding. Don't condone stealing.
When you show up with a bike that's like 20 different bikes put together, I'll know what happened. Let's just say that much.
Right, like it's a hybrid.
It's a hybrid.
No,
it's a hybrid bike.
It's a Huff Kent goose. It's a Schwinn goose, man. Don't worry about my.
A Schwinn goose. Now that is hilarious, dude. But yeah, no, come on out. And I would love to be a reason, and you'll get me out to that comedy show. You'll be my catalyst. You'll get me to do it because I'll watch you on stage. I'll be like, if he's doing it, I have to.
Like natural is just talk about your life, like one thing. Like my mother, she's a brilliant lady. Me and her don't always get along, see eye to eye on things. I'm kind of in the. I'm kind of obsessed with, using THC as medicine. I think her generation just doesn't understand that,
right.
Microdosing psilocybin. I mean, that's a whole other topic, but that's to her a drug's a drug. She doesn't know the difference between heroin and smoking a joint.
Yeah.
So she just thinks that like I'm just a junkie, and whatever. I'm trying to explain to her. I'm like, Mom, I took an IQ test that came out. I'm like, I'm not, I'm actually pretty smart. Like I'm good at this. I know what I'm doing. Nah, there's nothing. And she's always like, my son, everybody, walk around this pile of shit. My son, he just always step right in it, but that's what I think makes me like that curiosity. I've always had it. She's right, man. I've always had that because, like, I might even walk around a pile of shit like once, twice, and then the third time, I'm like, man, I gotta go check that shit out. Like, man, that's some interesting shit over there. I was like, I just can't help it. I just have to fucking like even I've gotten older and wiser. I know what to stay away from, but I definitely have to at least like check it out, like to see, like I wanted to see what it was like to be homeless. I've experienced, don't recommend it. It's not for everyone. It definitely sucks. Not for me. But I've definitely abruptly quit jobs before. Don't recommend that either. Just because I'm just sick of because this job is just not fulfilling and it's just repetitive and it's just. But then I'm like begging my friends for cigarette money. It's just there's. I mean, I suggest be an artist, do your thing, but just know that, every choice you make is going to affect, and it's going to affect your art, and it's going to affect, but sometimes I guess you do gotta take the plunge and I have I've walked into piles of shit, and it was a headache for my family, but I think that if I wouldn't have done it, if I wouldn't have put myself through that experience, I wouldn't have that perspective. At least I know what not to do, but at least I know. But I know the truth that everyone, no matter what, road of life you're from, I know that everyone, we're all vulnerable. None of us are as are as confident as we like to portray, and everyone has something. So it's like, what makes my mother upset, because I've, left her. She definitely helped me take care of my daughter because, the mother of my child was sick and couldn't do it. It's all those things. What does make her upset? Me always choosing that other path is also what makes me a relevant poet. So it's like, but perhaps perhaps there's ways to do it without making your life chaos. But I think that definitely with comedy. It's like you said, Robin Williams. I mean, you pick a comedian, they're off stage, they are one probably depressed, sad son of a bitch. Like they either drink or do drugs or cry or they're clean or they go to read. Or there's some kind of outlet for every artist. Unfortunately, a lot of artists choose self-medication with street drugs as an outlet. And my friend, one of my really good friends, and I'm not gonna say her name, she is a drug addict. She's been struggling with it for a long time. She's had the craziest life, every 5 seconds something's always crazy. But she asked me, she's like, how come that people who do drugs are always good at painting or good? I'm like, no, hon, it's that artists we have so much pain that we choose drugs to.
She's
cope
thinking
with.
of the it's like the chicken or the egg. She's thinking of it backwards.
Yeah, I think she was looking at it backwards, and I'm like, no, it's just that talented people. They unfortunately very often, fall back on some sort of substance. Thank God for THC.
CBD is a big one too. I don't know if you've ever dived into that, but
CBD is psilocybin has worked for me. I don't
that
use,
trifecta is me, man.
microdosing psilocybin, but you have to know yourself.
Oh yeah.
Also, I know alcohol is not everything. I'll have a beer from Tenacity Brewery once in a while. I don't
Shout
really
out.
drink too much.
No, to me, it's about I prefer I like to think of it as there's something about expanding consciousness that is beautiful to me, and that's why those three things suck me in. Especially psilocybin.
And they're organic.
Yes, and not only that, but all you have to do is look at the information that continues to come out and look at the accounts that people give about the life-changing experiences they've had. And the pros completely outweigh the cons the more and more you look. It's fascinating the amount of positive life changes people have been able to execute to.
And it hasn't caught on. Like microdosing has not caught on. Like amongst these extremist people, people are like, oh, I want to eat an eighth. I'm like, wait. I'm like, eat a half a gram. Eat a gram of peas or some strong mushrooms and see how you feel. Like, eat another gram later. Like, that's a better way to do it, I feel like. But everybody just wants to, like, have that, like, peak and have that, like, which is fine. Which that can be a relevant way. But you got to know yourself. Like, I don't recommend eating more than 3 grams of penis envies. You will be playing a video game inside your own head. Don't ask me how I know. Just trust me.
I would recommend it, but I would say you need to be an experienced psychonaut.
You definitely need to be experienced, like peas or stuff. But, having said all that, like, some people don't need anything at all. Some people, everyone has their drug of choice. That's one of my favorite questions is asking people, like, what is your drug of choice? Like, most people say pot, or most people will name a substance. Once in a while, I've had one person say their child. But drug of choice, I mean something that it might have caused you pleasure and pain, but you'll never give it up, no matter what.
Energy. For me, it's energy.
Energy's awesome.
Having someone in front of me, because I get so lost in it that I can't even, it's a gift and a curse, right? I can't multitask when you're in front of me. It's very, very hard for me to commit myself to anything else while you're here. That's my drug of choice. I can't, it's why I'm good at customer service. I feel the energy of other people to an extent that's frustrating.
Yeah, I agree, man. My drug of choice is, you said energy. Just writing.
Yeah.
Writing rhyme poetry. I'm never gonna stop. I don't. It's always gonna be, and it's. I feel like I'm getting better. When I mean better is like I'm able to portray things easier with these complexities that I create for myself. Well, I want to do another poem, for instance.
Well, we'll have to wrap it up because I am running low on time. But we can do it with that poem. That's how we'll do it. So we'll do this last poem, and you can just introduce it, set it up, and then we'll send them home with the poem. How about that? So what is this poem?
So this poem, this poem is called Revelations, and I've thought about like have you ever just told someone like the road to hell's paved with good intentions? Have you ever just told someone the truth and it scared them, or they wouldn't subscribe to it, or they just or it backfired on you big time? Like, telling idiots the truth is one of the most dangerous things you can do. And the masses are idiots, even myself included in that. So one day I'm just like, the hill after my golf course? I'm walking up it, down is awesome. Up is a pain in the butt. So I'm walking on and I'm like, man, this is like, I start thinking of this poem. I'm like, this is like rolling boulders up a hill. I'm like, why do I do this? Why can't I? But it's like the shortest way to cut through my house, to walk my bike a little bit up the hill, but it might not be the easiest way. But so I thought of a poem like, so this is called Revelations. Like rolling boulders up a hill or swimming up a stream, this most meticulous of tasks can get a bit extreme. A lot like trying to stay on top of a big bucking bull. Just waste 8 seconds of your life revealing truth to fools. Jump out of airplanes through the sky or scuba dive with sharks. Walk down a seedy alleyway at midnight when it's dark. Wrestle a gator, milk a snake, or box a kangaroo. Before I tell these fools the truth are things I'd rather do. Walk barefoot across broken glass. The same with molten rocks. With my last dollar at the fair, I'll knock down all those ducks. 'Cause juggling chainsaws, eating fire, or swallowing a sword are all mere child's play when compared. This act is so absurd. When their reality is crushed, they'll look for you to blame. Those who've attempted this brave task have ended up insane, like chasing chickens round the yard, staying sober at a bar, jumping a giant monster truck over 1,000 cars, unraveling a string of cords or tying your own noose, trying to loosen up that knot and laces in your shoes. A lot like trying to build a house without any tools, or catching fish with your bare hands, revealing truth to fools. Like flipping pigeons when there's cops, buying stuff you can't afford, trying to keep squatters outside a house without doors. A lot like trying to play a game without any rules, or using chopsticks to catch flies, revealing truth to fools.
All right.
So that's the type of approach that I take, satire, attention grabbing, but driving a point,
Yeah.
And
And painting a picture.
also, so every single action in that poem is something that someone has actually attempted in the past, or people actually always or do. That's the rule I gave myself, because I want it to be relatable. I mean, I didn't want to say slaying dragons or something like that, because it's not a fairy tale. It's I'm not writing fairy tales. Fairy tales are beautiful, but I'm not writing fairy tales. I'm trying to relate to people, and some of these poems that, by the time I'm done, I'm exhausted. My mind is a wreck. I go to sleep. I've cried. I feel it when I hit that note, when it's really like hits that nerve to where it's gonna resonate with people, because I'll shed a tear myself. Can I just do one more? Okay, so this poem is dedicated to my best friend who was a victim of gun violence at the age of 20. Flintastic is the way we live, with wild hearts and tatted sleeves, with shattered youths and ghetto dreams, cars decked with rims and hip-hop hymns. Flintastic is the way we feel, death always nipping at the heels. So we had too much fun last night, the county jail is overfilled, and we so often wonder why our lives are constantly insane. Perhaps it's just the way we're raised on ramen noodles and cocaine. But please don't miss us when we're gone, 'cause we ain't got no time to cry. Flintastic is the way we live, flintastic is the way we die.
Flintastic. That's like what you were saying earlier about making up words.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine who's also in the local artist scene, she's doesn't really display her works, but she knows a lot of artists, and she's definitely a fan. She's the one that kind of exposed me to her. I'm not gonna say her name. I'm not sure if she wants to be, but she's like coined that term. She tried to coin that term, but from her perspective, her perspective was like this gentrification, this beautiful downtown, all this. And I'm telling her, I'm like, I've been here 30 years at this point. Back then it was like 25 years something, but this was like 3-4 years ago. I'm like, there's nothing tastic about this. Like, there are some things, and this is an incredible town. This is where they went from making covered wagons to making cars. There's a lot of great things. The first down the General Motors strike happened in Flint, Michigan, but also there's so much crime per capita. There's so much. Like, I think the drugs and that whole street life hit Flint very, very hard, and people subscribe to it, and some people did, some people didn't, but a lot of people did, and it just devastated, it just went through and devastated, like starting in the 90s. I had just got here. I was young. I remember, this whole place looking, I remember everything being beautiful, like even like Sunridge Apartments itself. Now there's not even no playscapes for kids to play. It's like
Urban prairies.
yeah, it's just sad to see like all these houses get boarded up, because these people have worked hard for a long time to be able to, achieve what they've gotten there, to have everything they have. And it's just sad because, yeah, I think drugs, definitely the whole mentality, it devastated, this community a lot. And that's the reason why my best friend, he got shot. He wasn't, alcohol was his drug of choice. And it was sad because he had just gotten his GED and he decided, after all, I'm gonna get drunk tonight and make one stupid mistake, portray his toughness to someone who was too cowardly to fight and pulled out a weapon, and that's what happens. That's just one example, a very sad example of what happened. And that's why I wrote Flintastic from my point of view. I'm like, well, who feels Flintastic? I think these residents out here, and that's why I said like why is why they always wonder, like, why is our life so crazy? Probably because of the upbringing, the way they've seen nothing but just, violence and just, extremist actions their whole life. I mean, what type of person, it's very rarely does someone go the other way, like, well, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to portray my parents. I'm not going to try to be like these.
Well, you see a vicious cycle a lot with places with just a bad, just a high crime rate, for example. You see a high crime rate, immediately you start to see single-parent households. They line right up. It coincides, like...
Yeah, and that's... Yeah, you're right.
It's the chicken or the egg. It's what comes first.
And that's a different, and that's a whole different topic, but yeah...
Well, no, but it ties into what you're saying about
right,
this
man.
idea that the environment forms this mentality, and then the mentality forms the environment, and it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, it is a vicious cycle, and the only way to fix this is to educate people.
And to not be that person that leaves that other parent behind and creating another single parent household. It's not letting the cycle repeat itself.
Absolutely, but also like all these things, like you have to be careful because you have to be careful how you reveal things to people. Like, that's the point of my poem, because, like I said, people are scared of change, and they're scared of the truth. And hearing that, well, if this is your fault, is you created this, no one wants to hear that inside their community, inside their,
but I think that's
neighborhood.
But that's a way you could perceive that. But what is truly being said is that it's beyond that. It's that you feed into it just by not breaking the pattern. It's like you can have the accountability and the agency to break it. Only you can do it, and you have to be aware that it's a cycle. And if you don't see it for the cycle that it is, you will play it back out.
Yeah, you'll play right into the masses.
History repeats itself.
Like, one person is greedy enough to say, well, I'm going to sell this substance that's devastating everyone's life in my community, whether they use it or one of their loved ones has overdosed, or they've lost friends because of it, or whatever the case may be. But there's always going to be some person. So I think just the only way to deal with it is to educate people to ethic, like put ethics forward, because I think that there are a lot of people that aren't cut out, but I mean, there's that one person that's just like, that's all they seen their family do their whole life, and they're like, oh, my uncle's got a car. He's, he was selling dope. I'm gonna sell dope, like, or whatever, whoever, brother, because they don't have a good role model. And I'm not just talking males. And I'm not talking it happens in every kind of dynamic walk of life, race, neighborhood, everywhere. It happens everywhere. There's always going to be that one person that's going to, succumb to their greed. And
one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Succumb to their greed and, just cash in at the vulnerability of their, neighbors, their and people, and what makes me upset is that people see it as the norm.
No.
Like, that's not the norm. Selling dope is not the norm. Don't listen to these rappers like there's like junkies walking around. This isn't the norm. This is the life I see. Some people don't even see this life. Like people that go to Kettering University, people that go to, University of Michigan, from other states. I mean, they don't see that whole, like, hopefully for them,
Right.
for these guys. I mean, they probably don't even know that world. They've never hung out in a abandoned house with a bunch of junkies. They've never babysat a heroin addict who's trying to get clean.
They just don't trap like that.
As far as intelligence, like, in some realms, I could keep up with these people, but I do have that other intel. I do have that other knowledge because I have seen that. I have, helped friends get clean, and it's not for everyone.
We live in an incubation nation, my friend. Everybody's inside of a little bubble, and I think that it creates this weird thing where everybody thinks they know all this shit, when in reality, if you're someone who's truly lived, for a fact you don't know anything. That's the main lesson you learn in life. I don't know a thing.
And you'll make the same mistake 5-6 times before you realize you're making that same mistake. And you're like, holy shit, I'm doing it again. I'm, letting my emotions get the best of me, whether it's, going into a relationship too soon or just enabling that friend that's just on the, they've hit rock bottom and they're like, oh, let me get $5, and you know what they're gonna spend it on, and you feel bad instead of but
we forget our own power, that if what we say in that moment can determine the future. We said to that friend, like, hey man, I really
you have to remember that $5 could kill that friend if they're using the right kind of opiate.
Well, and who are you to that friend? Do you want to be the person that gives them $5 reluctantly, or do you want to be the person that did what they could to try to help?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's this Flint is facing an epidemic of opiate addiction. It's such a small close-knit community that is just it's hitting hard everywhere. And everybody's see monkey do. Oh yeah, let me try this. Like, what? When I was growing up 1,000 times, my dad made me realize how scary, IV drugs were. And to some people, it's just like normal. Like, oh, I just do this. Like that's not that should not be the norm. Like, I don't want that to be the norm for my daughter, for my kids to just be like, no, oh yeah, like we're doing our homework over here, and these guys are over there. There's a bunch of junkies over there. Like that, it shouldn't be that way. That shouldn't be like the people who need help should be in places where they provide help. I mean that's their job. But just we shouldn't like glorify this lifestyle. It's not cool. We shouldn't glorify gun violence. We shouldn't glorify, being a drug dealer or a user.
Well, you know what? I think a part of it is, shout out Giannis Papas, but he had a great thing, a great concept on his special, his stand-up special, about dad love and how we need some more dad love and a little less mom love. Because that mom love will accept you for what you are. It'll love you even if you're the worst guy in the world. That dad love loves you in spite of what you are.
Yeah, yeah. In spite of what you are. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah,
my dad.
They want to see you grow, and so they give you that tough love.
They do. My father was like, he's the ultimate alpha male. He was always like an incredible athlete. You know, is all through high school he ran track, soccer, obviously, you know, huge in any other country. You know, Russia, you know, Ukraine, where my father was born. Soccer is huge. You know, obviously my dad plays soccer. He did gymnastics, you know. And
here in America, when we kick balls, we're talking about jackass. We don't even know.
And I just like got spoiled by like my grandma and like my aunts, like always like food is like religious in my family. So I was like the chunky kid that couldn't run for shit, you know, like I was like the last one to get picked for the soccer team, you know, type shit. So my dad was always, I think, just a little bit disappointed. Like he's always trying to make me exercise. I'm like, I never wanted to do it. I think I'm in better shape now as an adult that, you know, I ride my bike everywhere. Like, but I'm not the type to like go to the gym and work out and do reps. Fuck. No, like, is that I think it's awesome. Like, I got a buddy that's huge now. He was skinny. You know, I think it's awesome people that do it, but it's not for me. You know, and I know what's for me. And you're right. My dad loves me. He loves me despite all that. And he's just like now coming around like to the whole thing. Like, oh, you write poetry. Like he's heard of someone because I think like it's people like him maybe that I write for because he's not the type. He's the type to like talk about sports and stuff. He's not the type of man to just like be like discussing poetry. And, you know, I make it this big, huge deal, you know, because it's important. It's my passion. And I think he's starting to realize that how, you know, maybe it's okay to pick something different, you know, and that's epic, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's epic because, and if that's all that I am able to accomplish out of all that, whatever I do then that's, you know, if I can change one person's mind that like going down that other road is not necessarily it's not necessarily like this horrible choice. You know, it's just not for everyone.
I think that's the message we can send them home with, man, is take that road less traveled.
And take that road less traveled. If you don't, but you will be scrutinized, you will be criticized, like, you know, but if you don't let it phase you, and if you do have the passion with whatever art you're doing, you know, do it for yourself. Do it for the people. Don't worry about making money. Don't worry about, you know, doing it for any other reason except to heal yourself and inspire others.
Create for the sake of creation.
Don't be scared to make yourself vulnerable. You know, don't be scared. Like, everybody's got a freaking poem, but I haven't heard only maybe a few people like Wyatt and a couple other people I've seen go on stage and actually do a poem.
They don't know who that is. I'm Ruse around these parts.
Oh, I apologize. Ruse. Yeah, absolutely. You know, Ruse, you know, I love that fall you did, by the way. Like, I like that because you did something different. Like fall you did.
What he's talking about is at the
awesome.
very end of my set, I was standing on top of a table in the middle of the room, and I did it in the moment. I wasn't planning this. I don't like go everywhere thinking I'm gonna fall. I was like, you know what would look cool right now, and I just took the bump.
He literally
I just fell right
free
off.
dropped. Like, I would have been scared shitless to do it like off a chair at Tenacity, and somehow he like fell right and didn't hurt himself. And I'm just like, nah, fuck that.
I have no training.
Yes, no, like it was awesome.
So
but that.
Let me just say, there's one piece of media that people can find. It's called Con Artist. If you look up Ruse Con Artist on YouTube, you can find it. At the very end of that video, I do a fall that I could never replicate. Like, I'm telling you, it's on pavement.
Like,
and
dude,
I
perfect.
fell perfectly flat on the ground. Like, I'm standing, I fell. And it's just such a photogenic fall. Like, it makes perfect sense when you watch it. It almost looks like I know what I'm doing. Like, I could have cracked my skull. It was on pavement. So I'm just saying, folks, if you want to see how good I am at falling, go and watch Con Artist Ruse. Go look that up. That ain't easy, man, to fall properly. I think I learned that when I was professional wrestling with my friends as a kid. I think that I learned, like, oh, I can't just fall wrong. I'll break my back. I have to do this right.
That's awesome, dude. And see, that's the same. That's just it, man. You thought of that at the spur of the moment, but you did it to entertain,
For the sake of creation.
to capture people's attention.
But not even just that. It's that I know that that's a more powerful performance. I'm not even thinking about the fact that these people, this is more better for them. I'm thinking this is better for the sake of art.
You hit him with that metaphorical sledgehammer that I'm talking about, man. You can't just, back in Robert Frost days, you could just tap people on the shoulder because life was moving slower. They didn't have internet. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have, you could stop by the snowy woods. But nowadays, nobody freaking walks around the snowy woods anymore. Unless you're like an Eskimo or something. You're fucking, there's
Polar bears.
They can't relate to that language. Not everyone. Some people can. But the masses can't relate to that language. Therefore, they can't relate to the idea. So, but here's the kicker. Poetry is cool. It's really cool. It always has been cool. I'm just trying to prove that point. That it can be cool. So when you hear someone say like, "Oh, I write poetry," like you haven't met anyone like me. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'm just a Flint kid, man. I'm just a little Russian kid who grew up in Flint, and I seen all this ugly, devastating shit, and I just, but I still. And so I know that, things can be portrayed, in a different way. People say out of the box, and it's not even out. There is no box. There is no there's. I know that there's things that I still haven't even realized yet. That and I think I've come further than any at least poet artist that I know, maybe as far as kind of revolutionizing the genre in a different way,
A pioneer knows no bounds, my friend. All right, poetry is cool. Let's prove that together.
Poetry
you and I.
is really cool.
Let's do it.
It was cool. It was cool when Edgar Allan was doing it. It was cool when the poems they wrote about the Revolutionary War. But poetry's always been a relevant genre. Don't be scared to read your guys' stuff. That the free verse, the people right off the top of your head, whatever. Don't be afraid to make yourselves vulnerable, guys. Nobody freaking cares. By the way, they're either gonna get inspired by it, or they're not gonna care. It's do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Do it for yourself. Some of the most talented people never made any money.
Yeah. And you know why? Because they took the road less traveled. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't about the money. It was about the road. And it should always be about the road, folks. It's about the journey, all right? When you wake up tomorrow, it's not about what you're doing later. It's about what you're doing right now. It's about how do I feel after I wake up? How do I feel in the next 5-10 minutes? How do I feed into this moment so that it feeds into the future, all right? It's always happening. And so all we can do is feed into that. All we can do is be present. That's it. That's all we can do. And I think that contribute your presence. Contribute your presence into whatever you're doing. Find a way to translate that presence.
Carpe diem.
Yeah, carpe diem. And then let's prove to them that poetry's cool. I think that we're in that one together.
You know what I mean? But I think that carpe diem, but carpe diem's been done. Let's say it in a different way.
Yeah.
I've actually had critics scrutinize me for, well, I think the one guy said that it was elementary that I personify emotions or personify like I did
I really got to wrap this up here in a second.
I just don't be afraid to do it your own way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having.
That's so funny. Thank you for coming by. I'm so used to people saying that after.
Thank you so much for doing this with me, man. Wyatt,
Yeah.
I really, I see how many amazing, talented people you've had on your show, man, and I'm just lucky to be one of the guys. I'm just lucky to be relevant enough to even be invited, man. Like,
hey, man, you're as relevant as you are in your own mind. Believe it. It doesn't matter. There's no point in time where there is true success, right? That's not real. It's just a matter of changing that one person, like you said. That's the reality. Is if you can make that one single difference, that's the true success. That's relevance. It's knowing that you're able to even exist, and I can message you and know you're a poet, and you're able to come through here. That is the confirmation that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Like, there's nothing beyond that. And so to me, it's just working, and it's just knowing that I'm putting in what I can put in. I'm contributing that presence, that myself, that me that no one else can be. That's what I am, and I hope to God that if there's anything that I can do, if there's any life I can change, it's just that I can prove to people that everyone can be them. There's an authentic them. There's an authentic version of themselves that is unfiltered, that's raw, that just needs the proper lubrication to come right out. And that's all it is, folks. And maybe you just haven't talked to the right person. Maybe you haven't heard the right advice. Maybe no one pushed you the right direction. Maybe no one ever said, hey, you know what? That is cool, that thing you do. So I just want everybody to know that, like, follow that thread. Do that thing. Be you. No one else is going to be you but you. Tell your story, because no one else even knows where that story begins. All right, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Wyatt.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Ruse!
Thank you, Ruse.
Yeah, they're going to go steal my Social Security now.
I know you're going to edit this. Right?
Maybe not. I don't know. I usually leave it all in, to be honest.
You definitely cut your name. It's up to you.
Maybe I'll throw in some bleeps,
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, maybe.
Are you going to bleep out the curse words? Or?
No. That would totally ruin your poem.
Dude.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a poem.
Right. All right, folks. Boom. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Guys, go do something awesome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to Thank you guys for listening to this whole episode. Thank you for listening to my other episodes. Thank you for sitting here and listening to anything I had to say. I mean, I'm happy to hear what you have to say, man. You're brilliant, man. And truly, I mean that. I rarely do I get to have someone in here that meets me where I'm at with poetry, and I truly believe that you did that today. Nobody, I'm never able to connect on this level, so I'm really happy we had this conversation.
That's enough confirmation for me. That's you saying that makes me want to keep writing.
I love to hear that.
Yeah, man.
With all that being said, folks, Ruse Radio clocking out.
I see it all from the watchtower. How I got powers more than ever. Time flows like a hot shower.